They first met almost 125 years ago to the day. Victoria versus Tasmania at the MCG in May 1887 gave birth to a rivalry spanning more than a century. It developed into a fierce competition, which has seen champions of our game don the famous jumpers with an enormous sense of state pride.
Only as far as McCarthy pulls it across his body. What a great start for Tasmania.
Representative football always brings a certain feeling of camaraderie, a sense of belonging, a willingness to go into battle under a common flag. Today sees the dawning of a new era. A fresh crop of footballers get their chance to represent their state league. Players have been hand-picked, selected on merit as the best in the competition. Tasmania has opted for youth with an injection of experience to help steer the ship. While for Victoria, the mature bodies of some of the competition's best will prove hard to beat. It's state versus state, league versus league. It's time for the Battle of Bass Strait. It is one of the oldest mantras in football that you play for the jumper, but when you pull on these famous jumpers, be it either Tasmania or Victoria, somehow it manages to make the players walk a bit taller, to walk out with a sense of pride that they are doing something that not many people get the opportunity of doing in their footballing careers. Hello everyone and welcome to Bellerive Oval in Hobart for State Footy 2012, the TSL versus the VFL, Tassie versus Victoria. Delighted to be joined by Andy Bennett. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Peter. We've been doing this on and off for a number of years and it's always a pleasure to have you. It's always a pleasure to see state football back on the roster again as well.
You know, one thing, I wish we could have televised the breakfast that we had this morning, listening to you and Phil Cleary talking about the passion of state football. It was just great to hear.
You know what, sometimes I forget. I think sometimes I'm getting a little bit over football, but walking into there, because we had the Tassie state side behind us, had guys like Phil Cleary and just talking football, I started to, grow taller and the tingles in the back of the spine. You can't help it. It's a wonderful thing football is, and then in the emotion that it engenders.
And it's a wonderful venue, and we'll talk more about that in the shadow of Mount Wellington. But the people who come here today will come here with a sense of state pride. Tassie, we know, has got such state pride. They've shown that in cricket over recent years. And they come here today just expecting a good showing and to really see a team give its all. And that's really all you can ask.
Yeah, absolutely. But the question is, you're right, when in the intro you're talking about pulling on the jumper, and one of the great markers of a footballer's career is to play representative football for your state. I tell you what's more important though, Peter, is not just to pull on the jumper, but then live up to it and be a really accomplished, successful state footballer. And that's where the Tassie guys have to step up today.
Andy, there's the Tassie lineup. A couple of familiar names to football supporters through AFL. Laycock and Lee spent some time at Essendon. There's been a bit of controversy about the selection of the Tassie team, though. What's the general feeling down here about the way the team's been selected?
Right. There has been a bit of controversy. AFL Tasmania, for right or wrong, have seen this as part of picking the most accomplished side. They would say that, but also they have a eye to development. There's 4 to 19-year-olds running around in the side. Average age of 22. That's only 1 year younger than the average age of the VFL side. But they do have an eye to the future. The controversy is the state side just about picking the absolute best players available at the time. It's a pretty good side, though, in form.
Joining me in the commentary box today will be David Lithgow, who's at ground level. David, as I say, welcome to you. First of all, a lot of rain in both Melbourne and Hobart. What are the ground conditions like?
Oh, Peter, g'day. Nice to see you again. Andy, welcome. It's interesting because there's been a deluge of rain. It's been very similar to what it's been in Victoria, and of course, up on St Helens on the east coast, it's underwater. It's amazing how this ground has responded. It's almost a dry track. I reckon in racing terms you'd call it a dead 5, something like that. And been down the rooms and they're very confident. As you said, Andy, there's been a lot of controversy with the sides being selected, but they look pretty sharp. And we managed to speak to Adam Sanders earlier and he was very upbeat.
Yeah, the preparation's been really good. We've been happy with how the boys go. I suppose now it's just a matter of them actually putting some stuff onto the field, which we're quietly confident they can do it. And so far the program's been really good, and it'd be great to finish off with a great, a good result and a good performance.
Interesting build-up, hasn't it? There's been a little bit of negative press that we've talked about earlier, which has been, well, I guess a bit unwarranted. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you look at our side, it's certainly, I wouldn't think far off the very, very best we can provide, but also keeping an eye to the future. So certainly some of the younger players get a chance. But you know, our mid-20s and a couple of our older later 20 guys are certainly in form and playing good footy. And I just think it's once again a great opportunity for the boys to have a real crack at a great opposition.
It's a good feeling down here. All the best today and for Tasmania.
Thanks, mate.
Adam Sanders, the Tasmanian coach, as the Vics come out onto the ground, and it is a very accomplished lineup. There's John Baird leading Victoria out, and he's going to see a few familiar faces in the lineup, Andy, because there are plenty of Port Melbourne players there, and after the season that they had last year and the start to the season that they had, it's easy to understand why.
Absolutely. Having 9 teammates in the side just is testament to the strength of the Port Melbourne. What an extraordinary achievement by Gary Ayres and Port Melbourne last year. I'm really looking forward to seeing Sam Fleming play. Big job for him. Sam Galea, fantastic player. Shane Valenti, his record over the last couple of years is outstanding. Of course, Johnny Badgie, he's a big, tough, hard bloke. I just got a sense that he might own the ground today.
Well, I reckon there's one guy there with his chest pumped out down at ground level. He's not wearing the big V, but he's watching the big V. Phil Cleary is here, and Phil, the only thing that might distract you is the beautiful scenery here at Bellerive Oval.
You're dead right, Peter. What an exotic venue. All my Victorian friends tuned in. You just got to imagine what this ground's like. You'll see the pictures during the day, but ringed by mountains or hills with houses there overlooking it, sea over on one side. Look, you could be in the Caribbean, you could be anywhere in the world, and you would love it. And you've got to love the fact that we have a big, big game here today. Victorian football in the VFL that is striving to be the best in the country, always feeling it's a bit of a poor cousin at times to the AFL, and here's their moment at this venue, and led by Gary Ayres, a legend of the game. And I did speak to Gary, and of course, Peter, I asked him what it meant to him to coach a VFL side.
Oh, it's a huge privilege, Phil, and I'm very proud to actually be part of this particular team down here today. So I'm going to enjoy it as much as I possibly can. I feel very humbled because it's a wonderful group that we've picked, and so far, mate, they've been first class. So hopefully we'll get the money today.
You've got a great side. People say you can't lose. How do you approach that with the players?
Well, we've just got to be positive about what we know, Phil, and we've got to trust one another. I'm not going to come in and do anything more than just guide them along the way today, and hopefully that journey will be a winning one.
Wish you all the best.
Thanks, mate.
That attitude thing that Phil and Gary Ayres were talking about is really important for Victoria. If they go into this game believing that they're going to win by 15 goals, they might be on the end of a very much surprise result.
Absolutely. You can't assume anything. I think Tassie football or Tassie state football is littered the history of that, with us boxing above our weight and knocking off sides who come down here will think, oh, they're just Tassie, we'll knock them over. I don't think Gary Ayres will let them do that. He's very good at saying, let's focus on the first bounce and then get on with it after. And I think that's really important. The start of this game is massive, especially for these guys, the younger Tasmanian side.
Isn't that a great sight to see the brothers in arms, the Tasmanian boys and the Victorians on the other side? We're just about ready now for the national anthem before the state game of 2012.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Australian national anthem.
It's a stirring moment before any game. Where's my mic? The national anthem. My mic is not on. Umpires getting into the middle of the ground. And hopefully, there we go. That might be a little bit easier to hear. A couple of Tasmanian umpires and one Victorian umpire today. Might just get down to the boys just for a brief last-minute thought. David, first of all to you. We talked about the Tasmanian team. I think the first few contests of this game are going to be so important for these young men that they can't afford to take a backward step and be intimidated.
Yeah, state footy, it's amazing. I mean, it's a good feeling down here too. And the coaches have been very approachable. I know you've enjoyed chatting to Adam Sanders.
Yeah.
Gary Ayres was fantastic with us earlier.
I had a couple of blokes come up to me at the fence, David, and say it's great to have state footy back, Phil. So that's a great attitude. You can sense people really want the game. You're right about your coach. Look, five premierships, you know, playing and coaching. He's got a good steely approach to it. His boys will go for him, no doubt about it. Ayres the same with a lot of blokes on the roll from Port Melbourne. It'll be a pearler. If your Bob can get into it, we're in for a big day.
It's going to be tight. Looking forward to it. See you up there in a minute, Pete.
Good on you, David. Thank you. And Phil Cleary will be patrolling the boundary line just to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. And indeed, chatting to some of the personalities, some of the players and the coaches throughout the game today. Sam Fleming. Andy, you touched on him before, and there he is just on the left of screen. Now, he is a man who is very much the general of the Port Melbourne team. You've got to be a pretty good player to be best and fairest in a premiership team that goes undefeated. This man is a beauty.
He's a terrific player, and Gary Ayres, I spoke to Gary Ayres around Sam Fleming just before the game. He has utmost respect for him. To, as you said, to win two best and fairest in such accomplished side is a great thing. He'll be important. They'll push Laycock forward, Tasmania. I wonder whether Fleming will get the job at him or whether they'll be confident enough to let him drift, play his own game, fill in the gaps and play that quarterback role that you alluded to.
Tasmania will go right to left in this opening term. Umpires Ben Lenner, Nick Saltmarsh and David Harris. So here we go, State Football 2012, and it's going to be Skipper versus Brown for the first contest. John Baird's in there for Victoria. Good bounce by the umpire. Skipper got the first hands to it. Baird gets quickly on the end of it. Got a handball from Sewell, but didn't handle it cleanly. And so they come diving in off the square. And there'll be plenty of intent early on, as we said.
Terrific, really important from Aaron French. Got in off the boundary line, smothered that ball, forced another ball up. Good signs from Tassie in the first ball up.
Yeah, and they need to. They need to make a statement to the much more credentialed Victorian team early on. Sewell again getting in there. Beard didn't handle cleanly. Fleming just scrubs a kick up forward. Vicks have got numbers at the contest. Skipper did pretty well. Got a little handball across. Valenti was the intended target. Umpire says a bit of a push, and it's going to go to the man who is quite often at the base of the pack. Valenti's kick, well, it just hung in the air a little while. Now out to half forward. Goods gets on the end of the handball. He was herded up by Musica. Gets it through the middle of the ground, wearing one on the beak. That time was Osborne. Now an opportunity for Tassie. Lee's after Fleming, lays the tackle. Skipper gets that back there with a good assist. Hardigan for Victoria, takes it out wide. Here's Pendlebury with a bit of space in the direction of Burston, Billy Burston. He couldn't take the mark, and the ball spills over the boundary line right half forward for Victoria.
Like the look of Billy Burston, like the sound of it. I can't wait till he releases his first CD. I'm onto it straight away.
One of the great names for football commentators, the man who came up with an unbelievable goal in the grand final last year. Skipper doing very well early in the ruck. Valenti getting down over the top of it. The ruckman Brown also got down pretty low and made a good contest of it, and we'll have another bounce.
2 minutes in, Tassie hasn't had a possession. All the tackling, it hasn't gone anywhere, but so far they haven't had a one clean possession.
And importantly, Wade Skipper getting his hands on the footy, Andy, at these contests. Third man up that time was Towers, who's been impressive for North Ballarat. Now the opportunity for a first real possession for Tassie. It was Scott Stevens who got it originally, ripped down in the tackle. That time is Ben Ross. And once more, we'll see another bounce. So a lot of stoppages, and Tassie doing a pretty good job here because, as you said, the Vicks are getting their hands on the footy, but they're not allowing them to do anything with it.
It's how long they can let that happen, or how long they can keep that up.
Back in the middle, conditions really good here at Bellerive. The Vicks making their first real surgical goal. It's a bending kick around the corner of Towers that just couldn't get the legs to get over the line, and Jordan Harris sees over the boundary line. So a good start to the Vicks, but certainly the pressure, Andy, for the Tasmanian has been pretty good early.
Terrific. They refuse to concede. It's very early days, but you can see what sort of attitude they're taking into it.
Aaron French working hard to keep the ball in, can't do so. Wade Skipper over there. Geez, a journeyman, Wade Skipper, isn't he? He's a good acquisition to Port Melbourne, I should say, this year, and certainly a good acquisition today on what's almost an unbelievably dry track here at Bellerive after all the rain. We've had John Baird, the veteran, this time going forward with the left foot, right up to the goal mouth there. Now they need to be careful here. Good tackling opposition, getting back there and doing a really good job for Tassie. Was Woolley steadying the ship due. They were out there, had a little opportunity. They still got a chance to mess this up all right. Tackling with him, Ben Reynolds at the fall.
Here's a challenge for Tasmania. This is one of the problems that Tassie might have. The TSL's an emerging side and competition, and the pace of it isn't like this. Tassie players have to understand they need to be quicker, sharper. At state level, that's what happens. It just goes quicker.
Jay Bowden now releasing Pete. It gives Tassie a little opportunity with a bit of clean disposal.
Yeah, and the ball comes out in the direction of Pendlebury, who knows that the boundary line is his best friend, and he kicks it out right on the wing. We just saw something that we won't see a lot today, Andy. Just a minute or so ago, Chris Kane, 5 metres out from goal, dropping a simple mark. He doesn't do that.
29 goals for the season so far, accomplished forward.
He'll be very determined at the next contest. Beautifully done. Intercepting there was Musica for Tasmania. The first meaningful drive forward. Good spoil at the back by Hartigan. Hoy's in after it. Lee, now Standen, tried to shoot off the handball. Victoria just with the numbers at the footy. Paddling the ball in front of him is Ben Ross, and then he goes to ground. Fleming's there for the assist. Tassie still with an opportunity here. Here's Musica. First goal of the game goes the way of the locals. Tasmania kicks the first goal.
And great work from that. Fantastic to see that the Tassie side understood that that goal came from the hard work. In the end, it was Michael Musica, the 19-year-old from South Launceston, who kicked it on his left foot. He's had a terrific season so far, young Michael Musica. But the hard work came from Trent Standen, the small forward from Clarence, who just kept at it and at it and at it. He forced a little ball, not a ball up, but just retained the ball inside the 50 twice, ended up knocking it out. Music, a great start for Tassie, considering they have hardly had the ball.
And Andy, I reckon that's a really good point. 4.5 minutes they've been chasing tail, but it's really been their attitude to just keep at the task.
Laycock won out of the middle that time, but Markin was good and kicked it forward. Just sloppy little bit of disposal. I don't reckon the VFL have been overly clean. Lee McKenna's tackled and got one over the shoulder. So the big Bernie, robust fullback. You won't miss him today, Pete. He's got one of the better hairstyles you'll see.
Better.
Former player with South Adelaide, of course, in SANFL. Just trying to do a little bit too much on the occasion, but Woolley did okay. Got out of it now. It's a bit of an opportunity here. Big Laycock picked up the footy. He went to feint the handball, went the second time and got in, turned to Brady Jones. Good story, Brady Jones. We'll talk about him going forward, the former cricketer. But just at the moment, there's an opportunity. Clarence, well, they're tackling hard to fix here. That's definitely on the footy. He had plenty of opportunity, didn't he?
He made a mistake. He should not have gone to ground. There's a little bit of nerves. At his best, Brady Jones, you can tell the story, David. You know him better than I, but he had to keep his feet.
Yeah, good story there. Brady Jones, of course, was dropped for a Shield final 2 years in a row, and he's made a come back to footy. He played a lot of football down the Kingborough in the juniors, and it's just a little bit of word that he might be looked about on the mainland as far as the bigger leagues go. But anyway, this is a big opportunity today. It's a big opportunity for Tasmania. They're just keeping themselves in the contest early, I reckon, here, Pete, with some good physical stuff. Certainly their footy not clean at this stage.
Brett Goods was the man who was applying the very strong tackle there, all to no avail. Umpire puts it down. Laycock down the throat of Baird, who was quickly tackled. So the one thing that the boys from the Apple Isle have been able to do is, even though they have been slightly second to getting their hands on the footy, they've been able to lay the tackles and almost bottle the play up.
Well, there you saw 2 or 3 to the tackle. Terrific indicator of the attitude.
Might be the time for a third man up, although Laycock was able to clear it, and his palm down came to Walters. They kick it up towards half forward. Goods with composure. Little handball, not great. Hoy gets down low. His handball, well, that could have easily been a free kick over the back of Webb. The Victorian player almost put a saddle on him, and Braden Webb perhaps a little unlucky that he didn't draw the free kick there.
I think he was unlucky. I think Brett Goods was possibly just equally as unlucky a split second before that.
Laycock and Skipper. Laycock decides to take it, then his kick was smothered. They're trying to dance through the pack. Here's another opportunity. Tasmanian ball gets into the goal square, and they'll do well to force it here, and that's exactly what Hartigan did. It came from Jake Cox, and a minor score. So Tassie moves on to 1-1. Victoria 1 behind, and we've been playing 7.5 minutes in this opening quarter.
And strangely enough, it's Victoria who's under pressure at the moment.
So Liam Hoy in the back line kicks along to Billy Burston, but just beaten in front of him that time.
Oh, no.
Gee, going out, I think it was Josh Woolley that he's just gone into
He's taken that
damage
mark.
there. It was terrific, Mark.
No, he did, and he controlled it beforehand.
As clean as the whistle for where we stand here, the boundary
I might be a little biased.
Oh, that's the
I
mark.
might have to settle down.
There was a second juggle, just a tiny juggle over the line.
Almost reckon you nearly got to pay those ones on that occasion, but not to be. So, an opportunity again now. Music is screwing it forward, but just Lee was just outpointed that occasion. And Chris Pendlebury
Started on the
taking
wrong
mark.
side. He was
Sure.
standing on the wrong side. You've got to stand between your opponent and the ball.
Plemming now, the last side defence. He's a terrific footballer. We'll get down to you, Phil, in a minute. I want to talk about this guy here. He's one of those guys that we just haven't managed to see in the AFL level, but there's another one, Brett Goods, in turn now, the running carry of Hoy. But again, the skill's not good. And Phil, he's a guy you talked about to me earlier that he's just terrific, isn't he, Plemming? He was outstanding in the premiership last year. He's a rock at Gibraltar down there. Welcome today.
Tell you what's happening. Tasmania are closing the space up, and Andy, you look at it when it's tight. They're in there. They're not giving the Victorians chance to get out clearly from the space. I think they've set their game up really, really well. And you see here, even this. That's what I'm talking about. It's good stuff.
Marcon getting the ball going forward. It all resulted in a throw at half back. I think it was Skipper who threw it, and the umpire was on the blind side of it. And that's what they've got to rely on to break away from the congestion at the moment.
I think Phil's right. I think what Tassie decided is if this gets outside the contest, they've got the edge. VFL side have got the edge on it, so they're just absolutely determined to make everything a contest.
Shinners giving the Skipper a bit of a chop out in the ruck. Here's Baird. That might have been a throw as well. Now, who can swarm onto the loose footy? This time it's Mike Cook who heads into the pocket, and dropping back and taking the mark is Dean Galea. He's going to finish up on a very tight angle, but he is such a powerful force. He's not a tall man, but he takes a brilliant contested mark, and he's so strong of body.
Very, very good hands, good strong body. What sort of kick is he, Pat?
Generally pretty good. This will test him from the pocket. Goes for the banana kick and misses to the near side.
Good matchup. Ben Reynolds has got him. He's the assistant coach and captain, I think, or vice captain out at Glenorchy. Made his name a couple of years ago playing against Queensland. He played at centre half forward for Tassie. He was Tassie's best, but he's equally adept going back.
So Jordan Harris there giving Harry Wells a little bit of a task, but he was equal to the occasion. There's no doubt about that Port Melbourne forward line set up as a tackling here. He just tried to do a bit too much, swooping on there. Chris Coney's dangerous. Back to a hot area. Gee, I'm not sure he got first bite. He did. Okay, we'll go with that. And I want you to tell me about this guy here with the New Zealand heritage, Haratuku.
Khan Haratuku.
Yeah, that's the name.
He's been really solid so far this year. We haven't seen him a lot on grandstand, but the reports coming out of Frankston are that he's been really good.
There was a couple of sets of hands on that, but the benefit of the doubt, probably rightfully so, going to Haratuku. So the first opportunity for the Vics to get on the board, and left footer, it straight to goal. And good to see.
Yeah, good goal for obviously every goal was a good goal, but I think Harry Waters, the Burnie versatile forward back defender, just learned a little lesson about state football. It goes up a level. You're not going to walk around players like he tried to do, as he's used to doing at TSL level. You've got to adjust. And certainly, why take the risk? Why take the risk?
I just want to talk to you about Andy. It was good. Ben Reynolds down back. I like that. We saw that midway through the season last year when he was struggling up forward. And that's going to be a terrific contest with him and Galea, because we know Galea is a fit guy. He gets out and he takes a lot of sort of marks out in front. So that's a big duel, I reckon, Pete.
Shinners and Laycock are going to be the men who do battle. Laycock unchanged off the ball so far. Shinners getting in to give a hand to Wade Skipper. And that time it was Shinners down on the ground. Finished up with Miles Sewell. Out wide to Cook. He's got a runner in support. That runner is Ben Jolly, who normally racks up the disposals. Valenti wanting to move the ball on quickly. Elects to kick the ball up into the pocket. Delivery needs to be precise. Galea coming out to make his presence felt. Reynolds hacks it out of there. Big fly at the back again by Jolly. Now a chance for Tassie to get some ball moving through the middle of the ground, but Hartigan waiting all there by himself under no pressure, and that's something that they're going to have to do, Tassie, just direct their kicks in forward a bit better.
Ben Brown just ran sideways, ran away from the contest, left his teammate 2 against 1. It was always going to go to Hartigan's way.
It's Liam Hoy. We see he's a good runner. He kicks to Burson, bounced off his chest. Numbers here with the VFL, but just on that occasion worked out. But Josh Woolley's doing okay.
and it sees them all over the boundary line. Braden Webby's a tough nut, is he? Interesting that they went the corridor again, the VFL. They're very keen to use the middle of the track here at Bellerive. And as we mentioned, it is a good track. You would not recognise this ground after last night. It was almost underwater, top to toe. So they've done a wonderful job here, the staff. So the two, so just going to keep it in there, Stevens.
We talked around Tassie's tackling.
Yeah.
And VFL haven't been too shy in that area either. You know, they've stepped it up. I think they've understood, well, we're in a contest here. We're going to really have to go at it physically as well to match it. They've been very good in that area in the last couple of minutes.
And that's what you like to see in state football. No one taking a backward step. Attempting to get his foot to the ball was Reynolds again. It's being played in a little confined area there. Shane Valenti standing there like a windmill, appealing for holding the ball. Ooh. And the umpire has agreed with him. Marcon takes the kick up to half forward. That time, Martin goes into the corridor, and coming out to take the mark is Chris Kane, and he is such a dangerous forward. You'd give him 8, if not 9 out of 10 of these kicks from where he is.
6-3 inside 50s now for VFL. VFL's way. And this guy, he can play. 23 goals so far in 2012. So I think this is money for jam for him.
And he does kick them in clumps as well. Chris Kane can kick bags of goals from inside the 50, starts it online and gets his first goal of the afternoon, the second goal for Victoria, and the VFL moves out now to a 7-point lead. It's 2-2 to 1-1 after 14 minutes, and you're watching the state game on Grandstand. Andy Bennett, special comments.
Just a well-constructed goal. Kane is quick, good hands. Free came from a good tackle. We talked around the VFL's pressure had increased, I think, in the last 4 or 5 minutes, and they got reward for that. That's a great centering kick, terrific lead, a lot of space, and he's an accomplished player. That's just a really well-constructed. Phil Cleary.
Dead right there. Look at the way Kane drilled that ball. That's into a slight breeze. He's a star player. A lot of talk about him being drafted. And Andy, you can just see as the Vics open that game up just fractionally, they become extremely dangerous. And you call it the far end. I think it was with Brown, wasn't it? Why he went away from the contest or didn't create space for the ball to be kicked, unfathomable.
Yep.
John Baird in the ruck here for the VFL. Well, he certainly took that first tap and he hasn't taken the second one. Back in there was Haratuku, but they just need some forward entries here, I reckon, the TSL. And they get one here. Lee's going up high, which just, again, it was advantageous. Really good swarming defence there by the VFL. And Shinners kicked it long. Standard's a chance. Couldn't take the mark. In fact, it might have been Jordan Harrison. They're away here potentially. The running carry here for Cook. He's a speedster. In turn, he finds Silver to turnover. Now the TSL opportunity. That's not a bad kick. We know Standard's pretty quick. Gathers the footy. Inboard handball. He's got the runner. Cox there. Mine checks there with him too. But the VFL sturdy defence. They're just not out of trouble here completely. But they get a free kick there. And they'll reload on the half-back flank.
Call needed a bit of teamwork. Just talk to each other.
Yeah.
You had 2-on-1. All he had to do was knock it down, bring it to ground. Didn't need the big clumsy leap over the top.
Kane to bed. I was a bit the other way there, Andy. I thought Kane actually drew that free kick by nudging his man out. It could have easily gone the other way. Jolly finishes up on the end of it. Got it from Ross. Little high ball now. Ross runs to receive, gets the handball from Towers, drives the ball up towards full forward. Galea gets front spot. He's hard to beat when he does that. Kane front and square. They come from everywhere to tackle him. Now Tassie able to work it out. Getting his hands on the footy was Webb. Here's music of the man who kicked the first goal. Out wide. Guess who's standing all by himself? Sam Fleming. It doesn't make any difference because the ball has bobbled away from him and gone out of bounds. So we'll have a throw in right in front of where Phil Cleary is patrolling the interchange gates. Phil?
Yeah, I just got asked to move on there, Pete. I was obscuring the view of one of those officials, and there's a lot of important officials in football.
Phil?
I think it was, I think it might have been an umpire's official, Peter.
Oh, right.
They don't like me all that much, given things I've said about them over the years. But I tell you what, it's an interesting game of footy, this one. The Vics just starting to assert themselves, Peter, and dangerous moments for Tasmania, especially given they're using the breeze.
So boundary line, well, an internal thrown, I should say, just an opportunity for the VFL. Certainly Tassie, as you mentioned, they just need to steady themselves at the moment. You can see the VFL running in numbers and just not totally get on top of the game, but there's certainly signs of worry. I guess if you're a Tasmanian supporter, Kane Walters in turn got the footy in board. Going through there was Woolley. Brady Jones with an opportunity down low, did okay. Scrappy little handball to Bowden, couldn't quite hit the target, but he's good enough to release Aaron French. In turn now to Walters.
At the back to French. Just in 6 and 7s here. They need a little bit of clean disposal. Clay Hardy might do that. Kick long here. This is where the VFL's been so good. And again, getting back there, taking a mark there was Baird in turn. Finds Plemming. And the VFL looking very steady. Andy Bennett down back. And every time they've had an opportunity in Tassie the last 5 minutes, the steadiness the VFL
They're just very well organised, but they're very well organised around the ball at the moment, VFL, and Tassie cannot get a clean disposal. Just about every disposal is under huge pressure. They kick it high. It's easy for the third or the loose defender to pick it off.
Mark onto Sewell to Martin, almost to Galea. Tassie defenders getting in over the top of the Victorian player down the bottom, who might have been appealing for a little bit of high contact, nothing doing. And we'll see it bounced in a dangerous area for the Vics. Now we've got a blood rule here. Chris Kane, no, he's okay. Can they get a third man up here? Well, it was such a low bounce that really no one got the opportunity of getting near it. Little handball came off from Ponsonby, but he wasn't able to find the target in Webb, and it'll be thrown back into play. Now that's a bit of a worry. Shane Valenti getting some treatment down possibly the back or the ribs area. Phil, can you tell us anything more about Valenti?
Yeah, he's a tough nut, Peter.
Yeah, we know that.
He said he got a whack in the ribs. It's just a bit of winding. I'll be fine. He wandered around, as you'd expect, Pete, wouldn't you? I think the ribs are okay, but he's a bit sore, and I'll keep an eye on him. But he said, I'm okay. But that looks like a big kick that they could have done with one going a bit straighter, Pete.
Yeah, well, the problem is that they're driving it in really without looking at the moment, and that might have been the problem for Osmond too. Gee, that was a terrific bit of play by Baird. He was under all sorts of problems then. He was able to get himself out of it. Hartigan and Pendlebury combining. He was looking for Haratuku. Boundary umpire said he got a touch on it. But, Andy, the way that Tassie are coming forward, they're getting the ball across the middle, but they're just blazing it inside 50.
And they're all too far upfield, drawn into space, a bit of ball watching, running up, and then there was nothing. When this ball was kicked along there was no one either running onto the ball nor there to receive it. They've got a little bit of a challenge. I think young Brody Myercheck at the moment is struggling with the pace of it. I don't know whether he's their answer for them up forward. They might need another quicker one to go with the pace of this game at the moment.
So Bowden into McKenna's under enormous amount of pressure. The tackling good, but just somehow Webb just plucked it out of the traffic and kicked it long. And this is where they've really struggled today. At ball number here, the standards around with Stevens. Coming back with him, his music up. Little opportunity if they can tackle it, but they've been very resilient. Running off the half-back line now is Shinners. Internal one-on-one duel. She is very steady there. Sam Dwyer, the speeds from Port Melbourne. One of those guys you wondered, how hasn't he been drafted? He's another one, Miles Sewell, to full forward now. The Galena territory is a strong, powerful unit, and just kicked to the right side there, and he was outstanding.
It was a terrific kick, wasn't it? Ben Reynolds really couldn't have done a lot more. There was very little gap between him and Galea, but the kick was so good. And as you've said, Peter, he's got very, very strong hands. If he gets him on him, he's not going to drop it.
And how good was Sam Dwyer in the original instance? One-on-one contest, a player less than 6 feet tall and just so clean.
So Dean Galea, he'll kick from just inside 50. It's a beautiful kick. He's a big part of that rotation at Port Melbourne today for the VFL, but not on that occasion, one behind. So the VFL moved to 2 goals, 3-15. TSL 1-1-7, 21 minutes into the first quarter.
And we go for the short kick in for Tassie. Walters has got it in the back pocket. Ross standing on the mark. Walters then having to go the bailout kick up the line. Pendlebury gets to the front spot. Knocked it down. Cook might have been held without the footy. And he goes in and lays the tackle. Well, all right, just picked their pocket. Somehow was able to squirt a little hand pass out. Cox got it in the original instance. Pendlebury going back with one hand. Here's Brett Goods. Little handball back to Hartigan. Mark on. Caught between a few of them. Got the handball off in the nick of time. Osmond's got a man on in the middle. Under no pressure. Towers runs inside the 50 and sprays it wildly. Probably had a little bit more time than he thought. And Dean Towers comes up with a minor score. So the Vics just off target a bit. They lead by 8 points at the moment, but it could easily have been more.
Absolutely. Well, we got 5 shots to 2, and really Tassie doesn't look like having a winner down forward at the moment. BFL to some degree are keeping Tassie in it. It's very early days, but they certainly haven't capitalised on their chances because they are dominant. They have been dominant for the last 5 to 10 minutes.
Harry Walters in board, found Aaron French. She'll kick along the line. Again, he hasn't got much to kick to, and coming in taking a good mark there was Cook. And They're often going here, and there's a bit of spread starting to happen, I reckon. Goods. Gee, just got enough of it. Maybe they're woolly and...
No, he's going to bounce it. I think he's saying, I blew the whistle too early, and so I'm going to bounce it.
Don't get ahead of yourself, umpire.
Interesting decision. Doesn't happen too often. You don't mind them correcting their mistakes. Perhaps that's not a bad result. In turn now, off the ruck there. Archon did okay. Just found Chris Kane. He's a clever forward. And as Peter said, he often kicks goals in clumps. You often see Port Melbourne, Kane, 4, 5 and a 6. And he's certainly one man they need to keep a good hold on. So Kane. And he's a good kick at the footy too. This will test him, I reckon, just on 50. Starts it right, he bends it a little bit too much right to left on that occasion. And another behind to the toe. ABC grandstand coverage here at Bellerive Oval. It's Victoria 2 goals, 5-17, leading Tasmania 1-1-7.
11-4, 11-4 inside 50s, VFL's way.
And it's starting to look that way, isn't it? They're really having trouble with their kickouts, Tasmania. They're either going short into the pocket, or that time they've got it out of bounds on the full. Towers to Valenti, sat it up on his head, wasn't a good kick. So Towers has to try and go in and redeem himself. And he wasn't able to do anything about it before Ponsonby was, or I should say, Bowden was able to come in and get it over the boundary line.
I guess, Pete, one interesting thing is the 2 leading goal kickers in the TSL aren't here today. And I wonder, Randy, we'll talk about as the game goes, whether that's going to cost them not having that stay-at-home bloke.
Well, it's not the 2 top, it's the top 7.
Sure.
If you go down the TSL goal kicking lead, you've got to get down to number 8, Jason Laycock, before you find a name that's playing for Tassie today.
Whereas in contrast, you've got Dean Galea, you've got Chris Kane, and you've got so many options up there for Victoria. It's only inaccurate kicking at the moment that's costing the big V. Valenti getting low, trying to draw the high contact, nothing doing, according to the umpire.
But just to labour that point a little bit more, when Tassie comes forward, it looks to me like they've got guys who aren't used to playing football together, playing forward or playing forward together. Half of the Port Melbourne side, half of the forward line plays for Port Melbourne for Victoria.
Yeah, so they know exactly where each other's going to be leading to and going. We've already seen a couple of instances of that with Galea ducking around behind his man and getting into the pocket. Phil, what about your thoughts on the way the game is sitting at almost the 25-minute mark?
Well, look, one for Andy. Look, in an ideal world, I reckon you'd have your 2 big men. You'd need those 2 talls on because they're not that tall. One of them sitting inside 50, like Laycock, really. He's off the ground at the moment. You've got to do rotations, I understand. But it's as if they need one more tall because when they're going inside 50, going with a breeze, they don't seem to be able to pick a target out properly and have players sitting under. So that's a bit of an issue. That tells you something about the lie of the land, I reckon.
Jim Archon was dangerous again, but the kick this time to Galea wasn't advantageous and out of bounds on the full. There's no doubt about it. And of course, they made the decision last night, Andy, to leave Bart McCulloch out.
Exactly
now,
what
and I guess I can understand that with the downpour tonight. You look at the track now and see that it's okay. Now, this is an interesting decision. I just saw for a minute there was a free kick.
No, I think what he said was, David, it was a shallow throw-in. I think he was going to get the boundary umpire to reload. So we've got to quarter time. Victoria leads by 10 points, 2-5 to 1-1. It was a really industrious start by Tassie Andy Bennett, but the Vics just dominated. It was played in one half of the ground, really, in the second half of the quarter.
Absolutely. After the, well, they won the first few minutes. Tassie really didn't have a possession, probably clean possession for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the game, but their intent was obvious. They've elected to play a really high energy, a tough game to play because you've just got to keep winning the ball inside. When the opposition you get it, you've got to run them down. They're able to maintain that for 5, maybe 10 minutes, but it just absorbs so much energy. And if you look on there, the really big stats, 7 shots to 2, and inside 50. Remember we called that, it was 11. Now it's 12 to 4. That's the really big stat. Victoria are dominating. They've got dangerous looking forwards who haven't kicked goals yet. Galea particularly looks dangerous. So does Kane, but they just haven't converted it yet. They haven't made use of it. Tassie have had a go. You know, pressure's great. Their chase and tackle ride's great. They're struggling for a forward line. I'm with Phil Cleary on this. For the life of me, I don't know why they've got someone like Laycock standing on the bench. He can ruck and then go forward. Just get him in the square. At least it drags Plemming or someone out of the way. But at the moment, the Victorian VFL defence must think, you'll be Aldi. This is great because all we've got is little blokes and we can just afford to peel off them. They've got to readjust. Tassie, VFL have just got to readjust their sights in front of goals.
And speaking of the VFL defence, look at that, Sam Plemming. No no surprises. 6 disposals in the first quarter. I thought Adam Archon's also been pretty good for Victoria.
Yeah, busy, hard. Fleming's a good player, isn't he? Very accomplished, knows when to be with his player, when to peel off. I mean, he's benefiting from some terrific pressure down forward. This guy looks very dangerous as well. Add him to Galea and Kane. Look out.
The negatives we did mention, we talked about the big four. They left McCulloch out last night. Gio and Jaw did Dever, though, from Tassie, the first 10 minutes especially. The tackling pressure was outstanding. There's no doubt we've seen that the last 24 hours around the group. They've been pretty keen. They're certainly up for the contest. It's going to be a talent thing.
When you go and talk to your side at quarter time or half time, the first thing, you look at two things. First thing you say, effort. You know, Tassie will get 10 out of 10 for effort. No one doubts that. It's fantastic. Execution, I'm not so certain of. But the other part is whether a couple of their players have yet understood. Harry Walters, I pointed to, Brody Mychick, I think Josh Woolley once, have yet understood that this game goes a bit faster. There's a little bit more urgency around this. I've just got to adjust to that and get moving on. The VFL, though, they're a very accomplished side. The last year they beat Western Australia easily over in Perth, so they're established. They know this game. They know this case. But Tassie hasn't played. Last state game they played was a couple of years ago up against Queensland. They got their backsides kicked, so they're not, they're not so accomplished, not so assured of themselves. They're learning this caper, and that's obvious so far.
And I think the last 15 minutes of this upcoming quarter, the second quarter, is going to be really important for both teams. Perhaps the bigger bodies of the Victorian team, their fitness might really play a part in this second quarter. All right, let's head down into the huddle now and find out what Adam Sanders, the Tassie coach, has got to say to the boys from the Apple Isle at quarter time.
Starting to get a little bit on top of that one we spoke about when they're just feeding it out in the back, aren't they? We spoke about it, so be aware. Start, a couple of things I'm happy about. Half-forward roll instead of Brody or Laker. Shutting down the receiver. Right now, ability, I reckon we're still the ones putting our head over the ball, which is terrific. Okay, good start in that way. Okay, all right, we're actually probably the only area that they're starting to get a little bit on top is that one we spoke about when they're just feeding it out in the back, aren't they? We spoke about it, so be aware of it, right? So if it means probably you more in that half-forward role instead of Brody or Laycock in that, okay? So it's a tough role, but that's the role we need you to play and then get dangerous, okay? Yeah, that's right, so just engage your play, all right? As we said, probably towards the end there we just struggled to have a contest there, but Brody, you flew against 3 or...
All right, just a little audio problem there with Adam Sanders down there. Generally pretty pleased, but I think in coaches speak, Andy, and you know this better than anyone, where he said, oh, yeah, probably towards the end of the quarter, we didn't have the best of it. In other words, in coaches speak, they were really getting towed up towards the end of the quarter.
That's a euphemism. You know, they just couldn't win the ball in the end. And part of it is because they just expended, they're young players and emerging, they expended so much energy late early on. And the VFL absorbed that pretty well. As you talked around, John Baird's just not going to get flustered by that after 5 minutes of pressure, nor is Valenti. You know, they're just good players, aren't they? You know, so that's all happened to us before. We'll absorb all that. We know we're a good side. We'll just wear it, and eventually it will break our way, and so it did. Tassie have hung in. And if you think about just the goals of the kick, you know, one of those, the second goal was from a horrible mistake from that Haratuku kick was from a horrible mistake from Harry Walters. So if you're being optimistic, you take that out of the mix. It's 1 goal each. It's just that Tassie's goal came, I think, at the 5-minute mark, was it? Or 4-minute mark. So they haven't really threatened goals, to be honest, much since then.
So what can you talk about, Andy? I'm interested because we've talked about the fact they've got no target. We know that. We understand Williamson's not there. We understand that some of the power forwards in the competition. Is there something you can see you can move here? Obviously, they've started with Brown and Laycock rotating. Is there another option?
I'm with Phil. I'm Phil clear on this. I can't see no reason why Jason Laycock wouldn't go forward. Certainly, Ben Brown plays forward for Glenorchy. I just think even if you say to him, well, just get back in the square, go back there and at least draw the ball first of all, but draw an opponent, create some space. We saw many times there all the forwards are pushed forward. I don't mind that. As long as they either receive the ball or they race them on the way back. But what VFL did, they let them come forward. Fleming dropped off, or another time, Lee Osborne dropped off really well, you know, just sat back. We know that they've got no big guys to go to. We'll just pick it off as it comes their way. It's a bit easy. They're going to have to change the way, I think, the way they structure their forward line and the way they go in it. You know, in other spots, you know, they're going probably okay or as well as they can. They certainly need to win more ball inside, not just let the VFL win it and then apply a lot of pressure. The best way to apply pressure is get the ball.
All right, we'll get down to Phil Cleary and Gary Ayres in just a moment and get the impressions of the VFL coach at quarter time. So it's Victoria by 10 points at the first break. And Phil is ready with Gary Ayres now.
I've got him. Gary, they were tight on you early, but your skill seemed to break clear a little bit, but not perfect, but on the way.
Yeah, I thought so, Phil, and I thought we were a little bit better just with our spread and ball use, you know, coming back through the corridor, but we probably lacked a little bit of finish, mate. But overall, I think it was pretty productive.
They're a sharp side, though, your boys. Yeah. They are good.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, but they're just got to be a bit better this quarter, mate.
Okay, you always wanted to be better, don't you?
Absolutely. Thanks, mate.
I think Gary Ayres is in a pretty happy position with himself at quarter time. He seems content enough.
They've got quite a special bond going, Phil Cleary and Gary Ayres. They're mates. Is something we need to...
Look, it's funny you should say that, because last night at the hotel I actually asked for Mr. Cleary's room, and they said, is that Mr. Cleary and Mr. Ayres' room? Or...
yeah. It's nice.
No,
it's nice.
They've been terrific. Gary has been so good with his time on grandstand, and we appreciate the fact that Gary and all of the coaches in the VFL, and indeed here today with Adam Sanders, and both of the teams are cooperative to hopefully bring you watching on grandstand some of the atmosphere. So we start the second quarter.
Ben Brown's at full forward. Sorry, I want to jump in. Ben Brown's gone there.
Skipper and Laycock are the men. Skipper went before acceptances. Laycock waited on the ground and just hoiked it inside the 50. Now Lee, little handball. Pendlebury showing composure at the back. There's that man Fleming again. Looks out for Skipper. Good contest. He was almost going to bump, and then at the last moment it turned out to be a bit of a tackle as well. Took his man to the ground and locked it up there. And is that going to be...
Brady Jones.
Surely he's not going to give a free kick against Brady Jones for that. He doesn't. Wiser heads prevail.
So we start again. Laycock's certainly getting his dominance as far as the tapping department. There's a little opportunity here for Tasmania. Andrew Lee needs to get to the footy first, can't do so. And that swarming defence again. VFL every time, certainly after the first 5 or 10 minutes they've been tested, they've got around in numbers, doing a terrific job down the back 50.
There's a testimony. He's actually had his hair cut because he loved Gary Ayres. Gary Ayres has the best mallet, had the best mullet I've ever seen during the 80s, and Michael Musica, the youngster from Tassie, is obviously paying homage to that.
It's coming back, Andy. Ivan Maric has got one now.
An opportunity now. Kick around the corner. Musica's got pretty dangerous. Geez, a good opportunity there for Lee. Nearly held onto the mark, couldn't do so. Again, a 2 against 1, which is, I reckon, has been a bit of a concern for Tassie.
Yeah, and he's got to step up. Hard job centre-half forward, because they are dropping players off VFL. But Andrew Lee, captain of the side, really has to rise to the occasion. Just at least be savagely competitive every time it comes his way.
Gee, a goal here could just bring the margin back to 3 or 4 points, which would be a good achievement considering the dominance, Peter, of the VFL, and certainly that last 10 or 15 minutes. So a little chance here. John Baird's interested. Not that tall today, so he's finding himself doing a little bit of ruck work at times. This time lending a hand to Skipper, who nullified Brown. Now here's a chance here for Cox. He'll kick around the corner. Gee, it's a good effort, and hit the inside of the post. Wonderful left foot snap, and I think that's behind to Tasmania.
That's the first time we called him. Jake Cox, I came here really hopeful for a big game from him, and I'm still hoping that he'll pick it up from here on in, but he has a lot of skill. He can play at this level. It's a big opportunity for him to step up, put his name up in lights.
Now it's Victoria's turn to go up the line, and Burston was just shoving his man in the back, and that man is Josh Woolley, who's got it just on the attacking side of the wing.
Tassie started well again, Pete.
They have. They've got their hands on the footy. This time it's Victoria chasing tail, but that's not a great kick. And Skipper read it well. Just falls into the hole. Oh, Fleming, he's just kicked it straight into him. Fleming was facing the other way. Skipper nearly bruised his quad muscle as he kicked it into him. And now Jolly forced to call it off and get cooler heads prevailing. Pendlebury up the line. Cook's been industrious. He's got Miles Sewell running for him, decides to use Fleming. So often the general across halfback. This is where he dictates the play. Osborne drives it long. He's looking for Haratuku. Stretches the big arms up. Good second effort by the big man. Good third effort by the big man. Baird got a little bit of a shove. Throws it out the back door. Here's Towers trying to break through the tackle. Good smother on the Ross kick. Cook comes diving through, beat about 3 of them, 360, got the handball, but it's intercepted. Taken by Waller, drives it away for Tasmania up towards the wing. 1-on-1, there's Fleming again, using all of that guile that he possesses. Sewell's kick in through the middle was good. Towers finishes up with it. They switch it out the other side. Jolly got a cruel bounce, then laid a good tackle on Musica, who tried to bust the tackle. Tassie's numbers went out. Nicely done by Jones. He's able to get the ball backwards. Still they're trying to get a clean possession on the footy, and now Hardy tries to steady the ship.
Hardy inboard now, and he's got Brady Jones just starting to become a little bit involved inboard to Cox. Nearly kicked that little goal in. There's a little bit of corridor footy happening now here for Tassie, but again, beaten to on that occasion. Stevens, he's forced almost to play as a tall forward, and the turnover happens indeed this time. Marcon, been so busy in that first quarter. Kicking skills looks good, and this looks really good to Ben Ross. He wants to give it quickly and does so. Kane with an opportunity. He's a left footer right to the goal mouth. Really good contest there by McKenna.
He's been good, McKenna.
Been really good.
Very strong, doing his job.
So Tassie just holding forth there, Pete. It's a pretty good start, just like the first quarter. Very, very competitive state of origin footy.
Good kick.
French's kick. Well, he kicked it between two. Sewell was just able to get his hand on it and bring it down to the ground.
It was good from Sewell, wasn't it? They were away.
Yeah, he just had to run that diagonal and just get his finger on it, and he did the job.
With a name like Sewell, he's not going to take his eye off the ball, is he?
Yeah, and related, of course, brother of Brad Sewell, Liston Trophy winner Miles Sewell. He's been an outstanding player for North Ballarat. Skipper tries to clear the congestion, gets it out to Dwyer, who hasn't seen a lot of the footy. Might be an idea for Andy and Phil Cleary just to keep an eye on who's marking him. Ross goes back into traffic, and that's holding the ball. Took them on. And once you get caught, you're in trouble. Umpire right on the spot. Josh Woolley will be the man who comes up with the kick at left half back.
It is a bit of second verse, same as the first, isn't it? Tassie started in the same mode. The question becomes how long they can maintain it.
Switch straight across the ground, finishes up in the hands of Harris, who's got time for a gallop. Then he sold the dummy to Kane. Gains about 30 metres.
Good kick.
Up the line he goes over the head of Ponsonby, who runs back onto it, and he drives it to Lee, and that's about the most productive and fluid move that we've seen from Tassie in the game so far.
Terrific from Josh Harris. Backed himself, took them on, ran with the ball, carried it. Good that this guy, last cut 3 times has come his way. Andrew Lee's competed, but he's ended up on the ground. That's the first time he's been able to shake. I think he's got Fleming still, but I'm not certain. First time he's bound to drop his direct opponent.
One of half a dozen players from Burnie up in the north of the state. Andy Lee, the man on the mark inside the 50, so it should be a question of accuracy. He kicks from 48, and it's not bad. Goal umpire doesn't have to move, and Tasmania's got its second goal and draw to within 4 points. I tell you what, the cheer squad in the commentary box is up. Victoria 2-6-18, Tassie 2-2-14 after 6 minutes second quarter.
The captains are really important in any game, in any club side. I reckon they're even more important at state football. And this guy's been struggling, battling, but he's worked hard. The last 3 times it went his way, he just made a contest. He fell over. I didn't like that, but he's kept at it, kept leading. He's a direct opponent there. I'm not certain. I'm going to pick that up. Pendlebury, and that's the first time he's been able to drop Pendlebury off.
Phil, let's get down to you. It's certainly a different opening to the second quarter than the first.
Well, Pete, they've got to catch the ball inside 50, don't they? They caught the ball inside 50. They got a goal. I don't know what the stats are telling you on their marks, but they're not marking the ball past the middle of the ground, Tassie. If they start getting some return for this hard yards that they're doing, the whole game turns around. And interesting, Andy, you've got both the big blokes on the ground at the moment. You know, I know it's a tricky one, but I reckon giving you another target up there just creates more doubt for the Victorian back half.
Gee, they've got a little opportunity here off the ground. Sorry there, Andy, one behind to the VFL. It is a no-brainer, isn't it? They left McCulloch out, and you've got to have the 2 big men on the ground. There's no doubt about that. So Cox just starting to come into it, Andy. I know you're a huge fan of his. Kick along the line. Webb, and in turn, he goes even further with an opportunity here for the TSL. Andrew Lee's got up the ground, done okay. Brady Jones at the bottom of the pack. Gee, trying to play for a handball. I reckon he's in a world of trouble here. Just got a little bit lucky there.
This is about, we're a big rap for Brady Jones, given his sporting background and all that. We really want him to do well, but he's learning about this level as well. The 2 out of 3, I reckon 3 out of the 4 times where he's been over the ball, he's gone to ground first. It's a real skill to keep your feet under pressure, and you must do it. You must do it.
Super important to keep your feet, especially in it, and the ground is certainly drying by the minute.
It's a sign of confidence. Brady Jones is a really tough player. We've seen him play, each week. He's really that, but he's just not certain of himself yet. Run through the ball, back yourself to take the ball on the ground.
Wade Skipper again. He's going to give himself a big chance again, Brett Brown. I reckon Brown's just starting to get his hands on it okay as well. Good tackling on that occasion. Sam Dwyer taking his opponent, Aaron French, to the ground. And we'll have another break in play. 8 minutes 20 on the clock here. ABC Grandstand's live coverage of state origin footy. We're loving it, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you did have a camera here on Andy Bennett. He does get a bit excited, the former Tasmanian coach. He just sees him and his boys, I think, Pete.
Well, he's done a Jezelenko to me about 3 times. He's jumped on my shoulders. There's a smother by Wade Skipper that gets the ball over the boundary line, but that's what we were talking about, Andy. That passion that you displayed with Phil at breakfast this morning is something about when you see these jumpers out on the ground that just makes you a bit more passionate.
When you break down football, it makes no sense at all unless you engage with it at an emotional level.
Yep. Brown in the front spot. Bit of ping pong going on. Dwyer ran over the top of the footy. Comes out the back door to Webb. He went to ground though. Goods on one knee. No easy possessions in there, and they're really working in a very confined space.
I reckon the interesting thing is that a lot of their prime movers here for the VFL aren't really starting.
No.
You look at Valenti, you look at Goods and Saw, etc. They haven't really been on top of the game at this stage.
Well, here's a man who hasn't been. Dwyer. Normally he'd have about 12 disposals by now. Osborne to Cook to Fleming. Good vision. Somehow spotted Baird. Now they get some run going through the middle. Towers gives it across. Osborne ducks around his man and finishes clinically from 45 metres out. That was beautifully done. And that is Osborne's first goal of the game, and Victoria gets it back now to an advantage of 11 points after nearly 10 minutes of the second quarter.
There you can see why Tassie's so keen to not let Victoria get it outside. Once they'd won the ball, their quick movement of the ball inside the 50 was fantastic. Johnny Baird was very, very instrumental in the hard stuff early on in that, but once they got the ball throwing, it was always they had the numbers their way.
And again, it was Fleming too with that little kick, just able to spot the man in space.
And off one step, you know, he did it so quickly, you know, ball's gone, defence is beaten.
So Ben Brown back in the middle with another opportunity. With Shinners that's gone to the ruck on that occasion, and he is indeed. It's not overly tall side today, the VFL. Perhaps probably even dwarfed a little bit by their Tasmanian counterparts, who did leave a 200-centimetre player out. I reckon in hindsight, Andy, I know we're dwelling on it, I reckon I would have liked to see him out there today, but they're dealing with what they've got, and they're going okay against this powerhouse VFL combination. They've got a little opportunity here. Jay Bowden, look for some clean footy. Still working hard. Music has been pretty dangerous, but here, I reckon where the VFL can be very dangerous here, and Sam Dwyer on the overlap running forward, just stopping and propping, but did it pretty smartly on that occasion. Found Billy Burston. Hasn't really become a big factor in the game. A turnover that time. Nick McKenna just dropped the mark he should have taken, but he's good enough to steady and does so. Woolley now left footer needs to be clean here. Got the little lucky one over the top, and well, Tassie, they're just holding in there. Brady Jones, another opportunity. They got a 2 against 1 here. Going through there was Webb. In turn found Musica. Left footer, he'll kick long, he'll kick forward. G. Laycock's had a task there on the ground. Bowden with opportunity. Stepping at the final stage there. I reckon Osborne was pretty clean, except the handball wasn't great. Goods running through now. Can Bowden get a bit of clean disposal? Inboard Brady Jones. 30 metres out, he have a fly on goal. But always the left-hand side, little opportunity. Gee, scrappy footy,
but huge good. They'd be wrapped, the Tassie coaching side. Just they did refuse to give it up. They just kept at it. Good inside 50 pressure. Brady Jones really needed to grab that one.
Pendlebury has a little kick to himself and then up towards the wing. Burston was amongst a few players to jump. Brady Jones gets a little handball away. Finishes up finding Waller. Waller goes long into the pocket. Lee was one of the flyers. Fleming gets his nose over the footy, as he so often does, and also there with him was Ponsonby. And we'll see a bounce in the forward pocket as we head down to Phil Cleary.
Oh, gee, Pete, I just think the endeavour of the Tasmanians at ground level, some of their smart handballs out, you know, they've got a slight sniff of this. They just feel they get another goal, get themselves, keep hanging on there and winning some of those contested marks and sort out their inside 50. Look at that work there. That's typical of it. They're in the game and looking smart.
That was terrific from all right. It was Hardigan who was the man who transgressed, but the Vics just getting numbers again there for the second effort. And this time it's Valenti to Goods. Normally uses the footy well. Out on the lead, Galea got his hands to it. Good spoil from the back. Ball comes to the ground. Galea's in after it again. Well, just a little fumble that time by the man who spoiled originally in Reynolds. And that cost them the opportunity of breaking out of their defensive 50.
Yeah, and it's happened a few times. Nick McKenna's fumbled a couple of times. Ben Reynolds a little bit over-anxious. The other one was Braden Webb's fumble going back. They're normally pretty good ball handlers. It's just the occasion's got to them a bit.
who can win this ball out. Chris Kane down the bottom now. He's dragged it back in the second time. Umpire might have been caught on the blind side, so he cuts him some slack and says we'll have a bounce halfway through the term. Vic's lead by 10 points. You're watching the State game 2012 on Grandstand.
So we really need to hold steady here, because another game just could start to see a little creepy margin. An opportunity out of the ruck there. Cole Martin in turn to the dangerous Kane. Little left foot is dangerous. Still an opportunity. Follows up his kick with him at the fall. There is Cork. Well tackled. Kane still now. He'll screw it back. Gee, it was unselfish. It was a clever
class.
kick. And Cole Martin taking a very, very solid chest mark. Wasn't that a classy bit of play by the star Port Melbourne Rover forward pocket.
And courageous by the man who took the mark as well. Only had eyes for the footy.
He's all right, Kane, isn't he? I can see why people like him. He's composed, keeps his head over the ball.
So Cole Martin to extend the margin. It's not the greatest kick, but he was close enough to make a good thing of it. And the VFL skip out to a 16-point margin. Phil Cleary down there on the boundary line. I believe you have one of the Tassie guys.
Yeah, Michael Musica. Michael, you're puffing. You're in the game, and then they just got that goal. But it's been hard going for you, haven't it?
Yeah, it's very, very competitive out there. Yeah, you just got to play one-on-one.
We're noticing you're really working hard at the ground level. The longer you can stay in those contests, the more chance you've got. And also not plucking enough marks inside 50.
Yeah, no, we're sort of everyone's moving forward and leaving 50 free, so we need the runners running in.
We like that hairstyle. The mullet's in fashion in Tassie.
Yeah, sure is.
Good man. Best to you.
Well
That's
done,
above
Phil.
and beyond. He's exhausted.
Yeah. Well, it's great that Michael's given us a chat, but I just wonder, as Valenti is pushed in the back there, a little untidy tackle in the middle of the ground, and G. Hardy flirting with giving away 50. Valenti gets it inside the 50. Now, that's almost a bump ball. Galea finished up with it. The umpire didn't make a decision. And Sewell goes into the pocket and off target, looking for Kane. Could have easily had a bounce there. It looked like both players had it. Andy, that point that we made at quarter time, I just wonder whether we're starting to get to that period now where the Vic's superior fitness might just tell.
And not just superior fitness, that's a big part of it, but just a bit of quality. So they get more reward for their effort. They aren't fumbling as much, they hit the targets better. So it's not just the fitness component of it, it's a bit of quality about it as well.
Tassie with some numbers here. Cox loops one over the top. Harris didn't have to break stride. Has already pulled a good move on that side of the ground. Dangerous kick inside the corridor, though. He was looking for Brown. Skipper gets down low. Valenti shovels the handball out to Sewell. Hardigan's going to redirect it. It was a dangerous kick, though. Hoy's the target. They both go to ground. Terrific effort there by Standen, who was outnumbered. And then again, he goes in. He's done really well there, Standen, to lock it up. That was untidy. That's a silly free kick to give away by Ponsonby. Just when they had the opportunity of locking the Vics up, Hoy takes it, gives it to Baird across halfback, and he moves it on quickly.
Starting some running carry down. They're going to get it through Cook here. Gunning through the middle. One-handed opportunity here, but just went actually over the G. It was a long kick. The target on that occasion was the big fella, Haratuku. I could say that all day, Andy Bennett. It's one of the great names. One behind. Geez, a dangerous kick. He really sent Clinton French a task, but luckily enough, they've got away with it okay now. They're going to go in short here. Brady Jones just starting to get his hands on the football pretty regularly. But on that occasion, a turnover, the reliable John Baird. In turn now, he finds Skipper. They're going there, running carry. Kane took on the player. Then occasion Martin, though, flipped over a handball. Run now, Markin. He just needs to kick a straight one, and he does. Another goal of the Vicks.
Turnovers just killed you. You're right, Brady Jones is getting his hands on the ball more, but that kick into the middle was just missed, but that's all it had to do. And once it was turned over, the numbers and the momentum was all Victoria way, and they were just always going to score. They are scoring their goals far more easier, and he just stood strong in that tackle. It was a good tackle, but who was it that tackled? He did really well to keep it alive. But you saw once the turnover happened, look out.
Just got the feeling this momentum has really swung one way in the last 5 minutes or so. Markon gets his first goal, so it's Haratuku, Kane, Osman, Martin and Markon, the goal kickers for Victoria. Musica and Lee for Tasmania. They're 23 points down at the moment, the boys from the Apple Isle, and they really need the next goal just to get a bit of momentum back. Hovering over at Sewell, somehow threw it out to Baird. He goes with a little clever kick, and, well, he thought it was going to be clever. It turned out not to be. Woolley chops it off. Ponsonby gave away a silly free kick before, but then just hacks the ball forward. Out comes Jones. He got to the back of the pack. Well done by Skipper. Hands and knees. Tower to Baird to Valenti. Turns a couple. kicks it into the pocket. He looks for Martin, gets to the front spot. He's right on his limit at 50. He's not confident. Haratuku comes out on the lead. Doubling back is Galea, nudged his man cleverly, didn't give the free away as Reynolds was claiming. He just used his body to ease him under the footy, and Dean Galea can go back now and make the difference. 29 points.
It's a good kick, wasn't it?
Yeah, kicked it to his advantage.
And he's done it. Ben Reynolds has been very good. Sterling with him, but he's a good player. And if he gets hands on the ball, he simply doesn't drop it. If you give him a little slight advantage, it gobbles it up. But the big challenge, we'll watch him kick the goal, but we'll talk about why VFL are so much on top after this.
Kick it he will from just 15 metres out straight in front. Galea becomes the 6th individual goal kicker, and this is part of the problem that Andy Bennett identified at the start of our coverage. Victoria's got multiple avenues to goal, and Tassie don't have that many. The margin dangerously, 29 points.
Yeah, Tassie only gets their goals, and the only couple of goals have really been against the run of play. There's far more method about how VFL get it. But what's happening now is Tassie's worked really hard inside. Now they put a lot of pressure, and they still are on Victoria when they win the ball, but that's drifted away now. So once VFL win the ball, look out. They just run and spread, kill them.
Phil Cleary, the tide has really turned here in the last 5 minutes or so.
It sure has. There's no doubt, and Andy's right. It's about the skill factor too, you know. And you look at that centre bounce. There are 3 Port players in that centre, and one of them is John Baird. He's 31 years of age. Look at that. He is the most beautiful player in a stoppage at the centre. Look at that. Should have been a mark. He is playing brilliant football at 31 years of age, and this goal is Baird's goal.
No doubt about that, Phil. Another goal of the VFL. Kyle Martin kicks his second. I reckon just about on cue, Andy, when we mentioned about Valenti and Baird. Yeah. They've clicked their fingers and they have turned it on in a big way.
Exactly what I was going to say. Class will out in the end, and the better players, Baird and Valenti are the two. Kane's another one. Dwyer's had a little bit more of the ball as well. They are just really stepping up. 4 goals in the last 6 minutes for Tassie. Now it's time to push extra players back behind the ball. Hang on, just be within some sort of touching range at half-time.
Well, we could almost see it coming, even at quarter time, that this was going to be a really decisive period of the game. Can Tassie just get a goal and stop this bleeding, as we said? Bowden in the middle of the ground. Nicely done that time by Cox. Good evasive skills. Gets away from his fellow number 20 in Burston. His kick was good to Jones. Just on the attacking side of the wing. Can they take a mark inside 50? That's not a great kick. Brown's going to have to leap for it. Jolly is there out in front trying to draw the free kick, and then he did well. Gave it to Shinners, off to Dwyer, off the leash just for the time being. Hasn't really had the opportunity of doing too much of that today. Vicks have got some opportunity with Mark on, trying to brush the tackle. They get in there and help out. Burston with a little flick handball. Dwyer didn't handle it cleanly the first time. Then he tried to get a kick away. Well done by Tassie. That's good pressure, because the Vicks looked as though they were going to have another entry inside the 50. And unfortunately for Clinton French, the handball was clever, but he just ran out of real estate.
Boundary line thrown 65 metres around from the VFL goal. 35-point margin. Hope you join the coverage here on ABC Grandstand. State footy back in Tasmania. Clinton French has been pretty busy in those last couple of contests. Now, let's have a look at the foot skills into the centre of the ground. He just almost gave a reasonable opportunity there for Clay Hardy, but couldn't get the ball to sit. Brody Jones working hard, but they're just starting to run in numbers here. A wave of blue at the moment, this time with Towers. Gee, was tackled really hard. No doubt about the Tassie's pressure's been good, but just that clean footy, and you almost see, Andy, they get a little bit of a sniff here, the VFL, and they're going in waves.
Absolutely, and they're winning that hard. Whenever it's a contest, you've got to say now that VFL are winning the ball. You know, their first hands on the ball. Tassie's football is when once VFL's got the ball.
Laycock got his hands onto it first again, straight down to Bowden, but he's tackled in a hurry. 35 metres out, directly out from the VFL goal. They've kicked the last 4 goals in about 8 or 9 minutes and really broken this game open. He give themselves another opportunity here to take that margin a little bit further out. Nothing clean here. Billy Burston's normally clean. He's well tackled. I reckon he's in a world of trouble there. Then the run and carry here, and they're going to go through French on that occasion. He's just got himself in some trouble. Gee, Brody Jones was really clean in some traffic. Handball on the outside now to Musica, and they'll go forward here. Ben Brown with a foot, with a step, I was about to say,
strong enough,
but just hasn't got the bigger body, and Again, the VFL prevailed down back.
It was Hardigan. He clean bowled Mark on, though, who had enough time to go back and fetch it. Running hard for him, Dwyer. This is something that he does really well. Dwyer looks up, sees mostly one-on-one, so he's just going to go with a little lateral kick to his captain, his Victorian captain, his Port Melbourne captain, Baird, to Jolly. Hoy running through the back. They've changed direction nicely. Pendlebury's got it. He looks inside, so they're running the angles here. They're crisscrossing their way up the ground. Shinners with a little handball across. Osman, who's done some clever things, including a goal, didn't look, and there was not much talking going on there. Now Martin, little kick. Well, they paid the mark. It wasn't 15 to Valenti. Didn't matter because he played on. And here's Chris Kane all by himself. He's on a tight angle, but he'll go back and kick for his second goal.
I reckon the sun might have gotten their eyes on that occasion.
Okay.
But anyway.
Might be generous, but we'll give them.
Yeah.
We're looking for those at the moment. If you're a Tassie supporter, to be honest, they're up against it. And the point is, you just got to deal with what you've got on your plate in front of you. So you've just got to hang on in there, keep it as tight as you can till half-time and readjust then.
Well, this would be 6 goals in 15 minutes if Chris Kane's able to come up with it here. He'll kick from 40, and he shanks it. Very poor kick for a man who's
was a
normally
poor kick.
sharpshooter.
Dropped it well outside his right foot, had to chase it, and there's the result.
So, Joe Bowden, he's been one of those prime movers, I reckon, along with Cox, that's probably been a little bit down. And he's just sort of the outside runner, Andy, that is pretty important to this setup today, especially with the plethora that the VFL have on their list. Scott Stevens, another one, just went a little bit down to one of the leaders for the famous green and gold colours of Tasmania. Laycock's the target on this occasion. She got up very high, then very strong mark. In turn to Brady Jones, who certainly looks busy in traffic, Peter. Enjoyed what he has done, but what a quarter by the VFL. They certainly came out the blocks the first 5 to 7 minutes, Tasmania, but it has been all Victoria. 7 goals, 9-51 here at half-time. They lead Tasmania 2 goals, 3-15. Andy Bennett, outstanding performance in that second half of that quarter by the Vics. Running in waves, and the leaders all standing up on cue.
It was a bit of a, you've got to say, mirror image, but a little bit sort of blown up, if you like, of the first quarter. Tassie kicked the first goal in the first quarter, did the same thing in the second quarter, applied a lot of pressure. We got excited. They had another, just another chance, and that's why we've got to talk around Tassie now. They had a couple of chances, whereas VFL have had lots and lots of chances. They maintained that to 10, 12, 15 minutes in, and then the VFL just owned it,
All right, let's get down to Phil Cleary, who's got the Victorian skipper, Johnny Baird, with him.
Johnny, nice and tight early, but you seem to have broken clear. I would have thought skill just a bit higher than them.
Yeah, well, they certainly came out pretty hard and put a lot of pressure on us. A lot of numbers around the ball to try and clog it up, but sort of the last 10 minutes we were able to break it up a little bit, get a bit of run going, switch the ball, which sort of opened up with a few goals, which was good.
I don't praise you too much, it's only half-time, but you are in good form. 31 years of age, 2 Achilles, a premiership. Your midfield work, your centre bounce is brilliant.
Yeah, a bit of a slow start, but as I said, like a few guys, we found a bit of it late towards the end of the quarter, so it's important now we come out after half-time and keep going.
Good work, John.
Thanks, mate.
But I got cast out and I'm a Cat supporter.
I missed my brother's 60th birthday because I had to go and watch the boys play. He still hasn't forgiven me.
I tell all my kids, if you get married when Richmond's playing, that's your choice. I would rather go to the footy, the real footy show for the real footy fans, Marnbrook.
And this Thursday, don't forget, a terrific program as always coming up. And Stephen Motlop, a man who had a very good performance for Geelong last night, is joined by the Collingwood star and Sharrod Wellingham. Andy Alberts will be along with the Walkabouts. That is the Marngrook Footy Show on ABC2 Thursday at 8:30. It's half-time here at Bellerive Oval, and the Vics have got out to a very substantial lead, 36 points the margin, 16 scoring shots to 5 at half-time, 7-9 to 2-3. Andy, we talked about the possibility that it might happen in the second half of the second quarter, and that's exactly the way it turned out.
Yeah, and the risk is that it's going to happen in the second half of the third quarter, again the fourth quarter, but by a bigger margin, because that was the case if you compared the first and second quarters. They're just running out of energy. It's a high-energy game plan that Tasmanian have chosen. Lots of pressure, win it inside, but they just haven't been able to maintain it. And VFL have quality.
It was interesting that Andy Lee actually kicked the first goal of the quarter. That was at the 6-minute mark, and at that stage, Tasmania were the ones who were getting their hands on the footy first.
Yeah, but thereafter, once it's the same thing. They were able to maintain that only for so long. But Baird stepped up, Valenti stepped up, Marcon was good. Quality will out in the end.
I thought Brody Jones's second quarter was pretty good.
It was good. I reckon he looked a bit nervous early on, a bit underdone. He's also got a crook shoulder. He missed a game for Clarence last week, and that may be some reason for that. Marcon, we talked a lot about Baird and Valente, but Marcon has really surpassed where I thought he might be. I didn't know as much about Marcon, but he's a quality player.
No, well, he comes in as not one of the bigger name players. As we take a look at the second quarter highlights and we see Tassie's early goal, but this is the opportunity that we were talking about for the likes of young players like Marcon to come up on a big stage and really make a statement and earn a name for themselves.
Yeah, he's just 19 years of age, so he'd be really pleased with himself. So will the VFL selectors. Everyone around him would be pleased. He's stepped up, and that's part of the reason why you run state games. You want to see how your good players, particularly young players, because you can't avoid the AFL concept now. It's ubiquitous, isn't it? This is a chance for guys like Marcon to put their names in lights.
I was just a bit worried with this goal from Marcon, the one that we saw previously from Osborne, that the goals for Victoria were just coming a little bit too easily towards the end of that quarter.
Yeah, I think so. Tassie, I think as we said some stage during that quarter, they were just chasing tail. It's all right to apply pressure once that your opposition's got the ball, but you can't keep it up. See, they're running second again. The best pressure, if you can maintain, is win the ball and make them chase you. It's obvious, it's simple, simplistic, but it's true.
And I think as we look at the total numbers, expanding on that point, the 5 goals that Victoria kicked, most of them were around about that 15 to 30 metres out.
Yeah.
And it seems as though Tassie had the defence set across half-back and across the last line of defence, but nothing in between at times.
No, but they just won the ball and used it so quickly. VFL, like good sides do. You know, we talk about spread nowadays. They got in and won the hard ball on the ground, and then the players around shot out. There was one really good quick kick you talked around, and we talked around from Sam Plemick, for example.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes, is that first really quick handball or really smart short kick and bang, and off you're going.
What about Jason Laycock? You and Phil have been discussing his role and the fact that possibly when he gets the rest from the ruck that he should stay on the ground, go forward, because you plonk him in the goal square and all of a sudden the defenders are very aware of his presence.
Yeah, I think they're way better set up if they have. And same with Ben Brown. I think Laycock and Brown have both been pretty good around in the rucking contests and the centre breaks and all that, but they haven't had an impact on the scoreboard. But neither's anyone else from Tasmania, so you may as well have them on the ground. He can play, Laycock, and he can kick goals, so I can't understand why you'd ever have him off the ground.
And just as we look at some of his action from the second quarter, we saw the numbers a moment ago. The disposals are 154 to 100 from our statistician Rick Findlay. Well, at half-time, 54 the difference. That's the equivalent, really, of about 4 or 5 good players.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't. It's really, I don't like to say it, but you can't see that changing because the inside players. It's not like as if VFL are only outside players who share the ball around and they're fancy with it. They're inside players. Valenti, Baird are very, very good as well. We said before, and this is a well-balanced, established, accomplished, confident, hard side. Now, Gary Ayres is not going to come down here. I know Gary Ayres. He's not going to come down with outside players only. He's too smart for that.
All right, let's get down and get the thoughts of the boys down on the boundary line. David Lithgow and Phil Cleary, boys.
David, what are you saying?
Well, I've just had a quick look in the Tassie rooms, and there's still some good intensity there, which is good to see. I just reckon they're outgunned here, but a man who knows a lot more about the VFL, Grant Williams, joins the CEO, or General Manager, we're just talking about that. What is the better word? Is it the CEO, General Manager of the VFL, enjoying the concept down in Tasmania today?
Yeah, it's been terrific. I think you know, state football is important for competitions, the state leagues. I mean, this weekend every state is now playing a state game, which is great. We used to all play over, you know, different weekends. We're committed to. The 6 states are committed to having this competition run over 6 years, which is terrific. And, I mean, we're just wrapped to be here. It just provides opportunities for players who, you know, to play at a different level, but also to get to show their wares in a slightly better team and hopefully a more competitive environment.
And I must say, Grant, you know, as I did coach the state side way back 20 years ago, and I love the idea that there are no rookies, no AFL players. This is a strict VFL side. This is blokes running around in the VFL, and you're seeing them play quality football. That's something to be proud about as general manager and for all coaches in the comp.
Yeah, look, I think we're lucky enough in Victoria to have a great deal of AFL-listed content in our competition. But when you play state football, I think it should be separate. And the fact that we can, you know, roll out a team and Tassie, to their credit, from what we've seen in the first half, essentially, can roll out a quality list like they've been shown, and the level of competitiveness with this game has been terrific. So I think it's good that we've just got purely VFL listed players.
I've got to throw one in before you go, David. One quick one. Why can't the AFL do it? Come on, you're the general manager. Can't you get on to... Well, not... I was going to say Colo. It's Andrew Demetriou these days, isn't it? Maybe that's the problem. Why can't they get a state game? Why can't they do this? Can't they schedule it properly?
What I've learnt in my short time as General Manager of AFL Victoria to stick to my portfolio.
That's a good political answer, isn't it?
And what I can influence is the VFL stateside, and that's what we're here to talk about today. And I congratulate the guys on their efforts so far, and hopefully they can continue in the second half.
Just for the viewers at home, we're interested to know the concept which has come back in this year, because of course over in South Australia, the WA plays South Australia today, which is outstanding. How's it going to work going forward? Who does Tassie play next year? Who does the VFL play next year? How does the concept change?
Look, the 6-year commitment to this rotation is being supported by the AFL. So the national second-tier manager is a guy called Simon Lawton, and he's worked out the draw. As I understand it, what will happen during that 6 years, Victoria, WA and South Australia will play each other twice, and then we'll play other states on the alternate years, if you like, which I think is terrific, because up until now, South Australia, WA and Victoria have been playing each other, and that generally hasn't included Tasmania, New South Wales, ACT and also Queensland. So I think it's good now they're in the group.
And the Vics will play the Waffle in the next state game. So that's something to look forward to for all you Victorians. Yep. Grant, it's great to chew the fat with you and love those political answers about the AFL, who can't fix anything up.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for saying that. Grant Williams a little bit more circumspect, making a very good career choice, not taking on Andy D, I think.
Yeah, very smart, wise man. He knows where the wages come from, I think.
Yes, indeed. All right, time to take a look at what happened last week in state football all the way around Australia. Matt Clinch has our wrap.
Werribee were coming off 2 straight wins for the first time this season, while the Blues were having a tough year with just 1 win after 8 rounds. It was a scrappy start to the match with either side dominating play, but Lockie Hansen was able to find some space in the forward line to kick the first major for the afternoon. After Werribee kicked the opening 2 goals of the match, the Blues replied with the next 3, culminating with a long bomb from Tyson Thomas.
Now Thomas can finish, generally does very well, and this is no exception.
The Tigers got one back late in the quarter through Sam Gibson to hold a small lead at quarter time.
He's up on, he's kicked it.
The second term started with a quick snap from Gibson, who was getting involved again, and the home side were making the most of their opportunities. The Northern Blues were dominating play with 6 more inside 50s, but were unable to trouble the scorers. A nice mark and goal from Majak Dor saw the margin out to 30. The Blues finally found the big sticks through Dylan Buckley late in the term, but still trailed by 5 goals at the main break.
He's going to kick it, goal!
The half-time margin probably flattered Werribee, and the visitors began the second half with the belief they were still in the contest. Buckley was the man of the moment and guided his side to 5 straight, and his 4th goal for the day reduced the margin to a point.
Bacon square if he wants to try and go the journey. That's what he chooses to do. Dylan Buckley! It's a goal! Dylan Buckley has 4 goals. They have kicked 5 in a row in this quarter.
The Tigers were getting frustrated as Hansen took matters into his own hands with a late bump. But the Blues were on top in more ways than one and had the momentum heading into the last.
Kane Lambert takes the hanger.
With just 6 points separating the two teams at the final change, the stage was set. The spoils would go to who wanted it more, and that looked like the Blues when they hit the front through Thomas.
And they've got a chance here. It falls to Tyson Thomas, who can put them in front.
The quarter continued with neither side stamping their authority on the contest until Hansen gift-wrapped Robbie Tarrant his fourth goal to give the home side a small buffer. Hansen then did the damage himself to put the nail in the coffin with his third goal to hand the Tigers a hard-fought win. After coughing up a 30-point half-time lead, the Tigers were able to steady in the final term and hung on to win by 14 points. Key forwards Lockie Hansen and Robbie Tarrant the best for the victors with 7 goals between them. In other games, Collingwood weren't able to follow up after last week's win over Port Melbourne and went down to Bendigo by 5 goals. 7 goals from Jack Gunston helped Box Hill to a huge win over North Ballarat. Sandringham claimed second position on the ladder after holding on by 4 points against Geelong, and Williamstown were too good for Coburg. Port Melbourne remain a game clear on top of the ladder, with Sandringham joining Casey on 24 points. Williamstown and Werribee make up the top 5. To the bottom half of the table, and Frankston and the Northern Blues are still searching for their second win of 2012. The Redlegs were looking to continue their undefeated season when they travelled to Sturt for their round 9 clash and were welcomed by the inclusion of David Roden to the side. A big crowd waited over 10 minutes for the first goal of the afternoon when a clever play from Roden set up Michael Newton with his first goal. The opening quarter was an even contest with both sides having plenty of the football, and the Double Blues were able to get one back before quarter time through Jack Stevens.
Short little kick by Craig Evans, and then Stevens with a left foot snap is a goal, and Sterner on the board.
With just 7 points separating the teams at the first change, the Redlegs were looking to put some distance between themselves and Sturt. Simon Phillips took some strong marks up forward and converted for his third, and Norwood was starting to get on top. Roden made the most of a generous 25-metre penalty to stretch the lead to 29 points at the main break, and the Redlegs had the momentum. Sturt came out hard in the second half but were matched by Norwood, who kicked a couple of goals through Luke Jericho.
Straight out in front, 35 metres. Distance not a worry, nor is accuracy.
The Double Blues were getting plenty of the ball forward but were wasteful in front of goal, until a smart passage of play finished with a goal from Tim McIntyre. The Redlegs rallied though, and Roden was involved again as he set up the reply for Ben Warren.
Brilliant work, brilliant vision. Donahue shares it with Warren, and Warren kicks the goal.
The match was all but won at the final change with Norwood flying, as was Newton, who kicked his second and extended the margin to 38. The Redlegs had all the play in the final term but managed just 2 goals, both through Newton, and the margin was 47 points at the final siren. A welcomed return for David Roden and 3 goals apiece to Phillips and Newton helped Norwood continue their undefeated run, while Brett Zorzi was the best player on the ground. Across town, Glenelg held off a competitive Port Adelaide by 3 goals. A dominant last quarter saw West Adelaide run away with a big win over the Panthers, and a blockbuster in North Adelaide saw the Bulldogs clinch a close one over the Roosters. A look at the ladder, and Norwood remain undefeated on top with a 2-game buffer over Central District, West Adelaide and Glenelg. At the bottom of the table is an even spread of teams, all within a game of one another. West Perth hosted Subiaco in what promised to be an enticing match. The Lions were facing their 6th straight loss, while loss for the Falcons would see them lose touch with the top 4 completely. It took just a few minutes for Subiaco to get their first major on the board through Chris DeLuca.
Gives it on now to DeLuca. 4 goals last week in just his second game as he threaded this one through.
The home side were the better team for most of the opening term and hit the front when ruckman Chris Kernan roved his own ball. West Perth seemed to want the football more than their opposition in the second term, and Darcy Barton made it look easy when he snatched the ball in attack and snapped a goal. The Falcons were dominating play, and Andrew Strike seemed to be everywhere.
Douglas won it down, but straight to Strike. Hooks across the body. That is a great kick.
While the home side was dominating, Subiaco managed to make the most out of limited forward 50 entries and converted through Brant Chambers after a 50-metre penalty. The Falcons went forward again late in the term, and Lane Rasmussen made the most out of nothing to give his side a 14-point lead at the main break. The visitors felt they were still in the match after returning from the rooms, and a smart goal from Callum Sinclair saw the margin reduced to just a few points. The Falcons were inaccurate in front of goal in the first half, but were having no such trouble finding the big sticks in the third quarter, as Strike demonstrated with a nice goal on the run.
Finds the run of Strike, 30 metres out, and easy as you like. Strike drills his third.
West Perth captain Jason Salasage read the ball best to stretch the lead to 27 points at the final change. Subiaco lifted the intensity to start the final term, and Rowan Kerr kept the dream alive for a little longer for the Lions fans, but it wasn't their day, and an easy mark and goal to Mark Crisp put the margin beyond doubt. In the end, the home side walked away with a comfortable win. A tight contest eventually saw West Perth prevail over the Lions by 22 points. Andrew Strike was best on ground with 3 goals. Around town and 6 goals to Adam Pryor helped set up East Perth with a big win over Peel. Claremont dealt Perth a 15-goal belting, and Swan Districts were comfortable winners over the Sharks. To the latter and Claremont are still a game clear of East Perth and Swan Districts, while East Fremantle round out the top 4. Peel Thunder is at the bottom of the table with 1 win for the season, a game behind Perth on 8 points.
And that was Matty Clinch with the wrap of last week around Australia in the various state leagues. As you can see, Victoria out on the ground, just going through their post-second half warm-up. Billy Burston amongst them. Let's get down to Phil Cleary at ground level at half-time in the state game. Phil?
Can you imagine this, Peter? I just bumped into a bloke who said he was my water boy down here in 1989.
Was that the bloke leaning over the fence? I just saw him talking very sternly to you.
Yeah, his name's Wiggins, and he's Simon Atkins' brother-in-law.
Right,
so,
Jamie.
Can you believe that? He said, I was the water boy, and he said, you flogged the Australian amateurs, and he said the VFA, as it was then, wore that the training jumper that the VFA boys came out in. So I tell you what, Pete, go to Tassie. You never know who you'll bump into.
It is a small world, isn't it?
But look, I was just thinking about the Tassie side, and Andy would have a thought about this, but I'm looking at Brown. When he goes forward, he just seemed to be struggling a little bit in the air, and I think that's where they've lost out, just going inside 50. I reckon their work around the ground's been pretty solid, but then you go to the VFL side, just a little bit too classy. And, you know, Pete, we've been calling the footy for a while. They're quality players, aren't they, the VFL squad? And you look at Port Melbourne's premiership side and other teams, and the quality of blokes running around in the VFL, and kids, all these kids, I want to say to them, if you're in the TAC system and you miss out, you go to the VFL and see if you can make it, because you've got high quality football. You're seeing it in Tassie as well. Anyway, can Tassie just get something? They've got to win the stoppages. They've got to pluck 5 marks inside 50 in the third quarter just to give them a semblance.
And I think too, Phil and Andy, the first goal is really critical here, just for Tasmania's self-belief, Andy. If they come out and get that first goal as they did in the second quarter, then all of a sudden, and the first quarter as well, thanks to our statistician Rick Finlay, if they do that, then all of the positivity that Adam was able to give them at halftime is reinforced. But if all of a sudden the VFL comes out and kicks the first 2 goals, then in the back of their mind they're going to be thinking, we might be in for a whipping here.
Absolutely. The mind plays a huge role in any human endeavour, but in football particularly, you've got to get some sort of reward for effort. You've got to hang on to something, and you're right, if they don't score early on, then, well, it's just going to just drift away, and then you're going to have a blowout. Before you know it, bang, they're going to kick a lot of goals in a row, because just as Phil said, and I think we've said, they are more skilled. When it gets outside and running, if they control the ball and they're on top, they're going to score heavily. They can. They kick 6 goals or 7 goals in a pretty short time at the end of that second quarter.
And
well, look,
David?
could I just say, Peter, could I pick up on that, Peter, and say,
yes, mate.
I've watched the Tassie boys at close quarters. You can see there's just a fraction more nervousness about them in the contest, but I think that's partly because when you don't, and you can reflect on this, Andy, when you don't get returns for your driving forward, you start to wonder about what's going on, and you just need that. It's like what we call scoreboard pressure. You get a couple of goals on the board, you lift, your confidence raises, and then you're in the game. So this is really important for them to get that ball, win it, get it inside, take a mark, get a goal, and it's exponential, really.
Yeah, and you're right, Phil. It's an obvious thing. The question is, how do they do it? You know, what can they change? Who gets more of the ball? Who goes forward and takes the marks at inside 50 that I agree are so important? And I think that's the challenge for Tassie. If you give them rewards for effort and all those things at the moment, pat on the back, but how do they construct some easier goals, some well-constructed, well-put-together goals is a huge question.
Yeah, very good point. It is about structure, isn't it, in the end, Andy? It's a structural thing. If you can get the lines right, if you can get the angles right, if you can land it a bit high, just enough to give yourself a chance in the contest so there's a spill, then you work. But, you know, it's a tough gig and they're up against good opposition.
All right, third quarter about to get underway in the state game. Victoria leading by 36 points. Can Tassie just break the spell that they seem to be under in the second half of that second quarter? Umpire bouncing that one well outside the circle, so we'll have another go to start the second term, and it'll be Laycock and Skipper. Skipper looking up into the setting sun, rises high, down to Baird, off to Dwyer. Good start to Victoria, tumbles the punt inside 50. Burston will want his left foot if he gathers it, but his opponent was just a little bit quicker to the footy, and that was a good effort that time by Myercheck, who was able to put his body between his opponent Burston and the boundary line.
He went down into the boundary line. Gary is outstanding the way he installs confidence in his players, and the self-belief that he gives his troops is just it's a wonderful thing to see, and it's such an experienced, confident coach.
Osborne left it behind. Jones did pretty well. Kick comes up in the direction of Lee, but it was just on that non-preferred side, and that's what Tassie are going through at present, Andy. They're getting into positions where they're not able to get easy disposals, and then sometimes they're forced onto the wrong side, and as a result, the possession's a bit sloppy.
Absolutely, and you've got to give VFL, a pat on the back for that. They're as competitive. We've talked around Tassie's competitiveness, and certainly they have been, but the VFL have been certainly that and a bit more, probably.
Laycock there again getting his hands on the ball. I'm going to check with the stats man very shortly, but I reckon Tassie have probably got first hands on use in the footy in the ruck contest most today. Rick Finlay will get that to me very soon, but I don't think they have. They certainly dominated in that area. They just don't have the quality, and this is where they've been breaking down, Andy, all day. Going to half forward, they just can't get that clean footy.
It was 15-12, David, in Victoria's favour at half-time.
Okay, so this man here, Goods, he's just started to come into his own. He's got plenty of time to butter up and pick up the bouncing ball. Kicks forward to, well, on that occasion was Haratu, who couldn't take the mark. Bought the turn. McKenna's been really good. A solid contributor all day, but he's certainly becoming under more pressure as every contest gains. As the VFL gain momentum and surge towards a 6-goal lead here at Bellerive. They've certainly competed well, I guess what I'm saying, in the ruck division, haven't they? They just haven't had any reward for effort.
In fact, I think Laycock, when he's been on the ball, has probably been the best ruckman on the ground. But there he is,
Well, again, he's got the left hand, and his palm word's so clean, but the VFL around the stoppages, they've been superb, especially after 10 minutes in that second quarter. And it's the big names. This guy here, Mike Cook, he's got plenty of speed. It's a wonderful opportunity today for these players to shine. They've got an opportunity because AFL footy could be just around the corner.
And something that just happened there with Sam Dwyer, I'll tell you about in a moment. Mike Cook on his left foot, kicks into the pocket. Here's Kane. Very dangerous on either foot, well smothered. Haratuku trying to lay his hands on the footy. Dives in after it, the big man. Valenti is just hovering there with intent. What I was going to say was, Sam Dwyer at the stoppage, Andy, just peeled away from that bounce at half forward. Caused a restructure of the Tassie players up the ground, manufacturing the loose man. And that's something that the Victorians are doing well, And they're well organised under Gary Ayres, as you'd expect. Martin's kick smothered. Bounce back to him. Ross only kicked it about 5 or 6 metres. Harris whacks it out of there. And somehow Baird, with bodies flying everywhere, was able to take the mark. He's got Osborne calling for it short. Elects to go into the corridor. Dwyer laying a one-handed tackle. Nicely done, though, by Standen. He was able to break the tackle of Dwyer. Now a chance for Tassie. The handball came away from Cox. Lee getting into some space, wants to move it on quickly. He's kicked it out into vacant land. Who's going to win the foot race? The big fella, Brown, pushing back, but nice defending from Kyle Hartigan, and he forces the minor score.
He's been very solid, Hartigan, hasn't he? He's just quite professional, very proficient in what he does. Never gives his opponent any space, but when he has the opportunity to run off and make that third man, he's done that equally as well.
Penderbury's kick wasn't so good on that occasion. Gives Tasmania an opportunity, but Cox's kick again.
Well, he didn't look
askew.
Just did not look panic.
Kyle Hartigan having a really good game, especially too. I reckon he's shown he's a bit more maturity with Brown around the contest. This is a good chance, though, a good opportunity. And Lee, again with a turnover. You see the modern day football where it's so evident. And again, that gave Tasmania a little opportunity, and Lee had a couple of yards on his opponent, took the mark.
Will they kick the first goal in the third quarter?
as per the first and second quarter. Rick loves those sort of patterns. He'll just go into all sorts of fits in a moment. He just loves it. Look at him. He's all excited here next to me.
Andy Lee, kick from just inside 50. His first shot on goal was a really good one. This doesn't look too bad at all. From 48 metres, Andrew Lee on a tight angle gets the first one for Tasmania.
Well, there you go, says the statistician. 3 out of 3. Look out. And I've got to give Andrew Lee a pat on the back. This is no easy day to be a centre-half forward in a side that's, you know, not winning a lot of the ball. He has not stopped running at the ball, and he's against no ordinary player. Hardigan's a good player. You know, very, very good player. I think it's Hardigan he's got at the moment, but he's just been, he's done the right thing. Sorry, he's got at the moment, I'll tell you, he's got Chris Pendlebury. Pendlebury's a good player, but he's just kept at it, led from the front, as you would expect and need the captain to do.
Well, we've talked about Tasmania turning the ball over when they come into the 50. Victoria have turned the ball over a couple of times going out of the 50. Here's a centre clearance from Dwyer. Just tried to kick it to his own advantage. Then Sewell, good balance, kept his feet and then finished beautifully. And that's a wonderful kick to Haratuku. Sewell had his nose going forward there and was just about to topple over. But that's what the good players do. They can keep their feet.
Yeah, good, strong, good lesson for any good young player. Good lesson for a couple of the Tassie guys who said today went to ground too early. He just refused to go to ground, and here's the result: shot and goal.
Khan Haratuku from inside the 50 kicks from about 35 metres out, and he's kicked truly. So the quick reply comes for Victoria after Lee's goal at the other end. Haratuku comes up with his second goal of the afternoon and restores the margin, and it goes back out to 35 points.
Yeah, and just, it's an obvious thing, isn't it? Just what Tassie didn't need. They haven't, well, they've only kicked 3 goals for the day, so it's a soda, isn't it? They haven't kicked goals back to back at any stage, and they just can't do that. If they've got to get back in the game, they've got to put not just 1 and 2 together. They've got to put 3, 4, 5 in a row together. And I don't see the VFL letting them do that. They are too good a side.
I don't think there's any doubt. They've just left themselves a little bit thin up forward today. 1 or 2 targets short. Bart McCulloch probably in hindsight should have played one of those big full forwards. Not sure whether it was a Derbyshire or a Williamson or someone. You can't help but have that experienced bloke at home to kick to. And that's what they certainly have, the VFL. And Haratuku and Galena, they've been terrific. And this man here hasn't been really good, Billy Burston, but he can turn it in pretty quickly. Galena now picks up the footy, goes good really vision. Unselfishly well. Valenti on that occasion dropped what he would have swallowed 999 times out of 1,000, but the experienced campaigner who's been pretty solid today.
Have a look at that. He knows it too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write him off here yet with a stoppage around him. Might be a little chance here, but Jordan Harris has been one of those players, Andy, from the Launceston Footy Club's been pretty good.
I reckon.
Because he was probably in their premiership team, Launceston's team last year, wasn't a star by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but he might have been one of those guys people would have thought, well, should he be in the Tassie side? He'd be on the, in that world. But he's probably been as good as any for Tassie across the 2.5 big quarters we've had so far.
Stevens put his head over and so did Ponsonby, but they're under siege here. Free kick's going to probably give them a little bit of relief here. So Waller deep in the back pocket, just a chance to steady the ship here for his beloved Tasmania. It is a great Guernsey, there's no doubt about it. You look at the Tasmanian jumper and the Big V, there's none better. They're the two big ones.
I'm going to talk about this guy for a while. This is a good story. He's playing down at Dodgers Ferry 2 years ago, just mucking around out in the boondocks, really. Not that Dodgers Ferry's the boondocks. That's where I happen to be school principal, and his dad, Steve, God bless you, Steve, is our groundsman down there, so it's a great moment for the Dodgers Ferry primary school community. I've just got to get in that little plug.
Turnover by Allright. Baird used Osborne at the back. Burston gives a little nudge to Myercheck. Then attempts to keep the ball in, and he did. He's dragged it in underneath him. Now it spills free, and Burston needing to release the footy, otherwise he would have been
He just
pinged.
sort of missed the body then, Burston, didn't he, when he was just going back. He just looked for that nudge and couldn't get a touch and feel.
There is Billy.
He's a beauty.
Ruckman assemble underneath it. Martin trying to get in there. Ross dangerous, kicks it to a dangerous spot. Bouncing ball, bounces through. So he's made something out of nothing there, Ben Ross from the pocket. And Victoria does as they did in the first quarter. Rick's going to go into a state of apoplexy here in a moment because Tasmania has kicked the first goal of all of the quarters and Victoria's kicked at least the next 2 after that. There you go, Rick, write that one down.
Ben Ross, though, hasn't had a big day, Ben Ross. He's that's, I think, is his 6th possession. Good snap, he gets the right bounce. Well, he's probably going to, It's hitting just about the middle of the goal, so it's a good snap. Ben Ross, ex-North Melbourne player, with a bit of a rap. They thought he was going to be a player. Brent Harvey lookalike, they thought, for a while, and actually he played, I think, David, help me out here, I think he played a bit of footy for the Tassie Devils back when we had partnership.
They had that pretty, let's say, unsuccessful alignment there a few years ago, which was just about the death of the Tassie Devils, unfortunately, on that occasion. Gee, Pleming's just so reliable, isn't he, Pete? You talked about him this morning over breakfast. He's 26 years of age. He's a rock of Gibraltar, and he's so solid. And as you mentioned, he sets up a lot of play. So Pendlebury, just happy to switch and move the footy around, and Hardigan.
Guess who?
He's a really, really good-looking size, Hardigan, and his foot skills were good in terms of Fleming, who goes along the line and sort of sends Chris Kane a little bit of a task and a bit of a turnover opportunity now here. Jordan Harris getting himself to the contest. Andrew Lee. Now, let's have a look at the kick, the forward line. Stevens is dangerous. He had a good opportunity, a good bite at it. But Hardigan will leave. He'll go, and the VFL find himself in a mountain of space.
Marcon had a man on over the top. That man is Ben Ross. He can go short, out on the lead, Galea.
It's coast to coast, you know.
We'll get down to you to get the coast-to-coast talk in a moment, Phil. Here is Galea coming inside to Sill. Phil, while Miles Sill is going back and maybe having a look, get in there.
Yeah, look, sorry, Pete, I was thinking coast-to-coast. And, I was just prior to that suggesting about talking about the skill of modern VFL players. Now, Pete, I think the fact that they play against AFL sides, there's a whole lot of accentuated coaching. The structures are so clean. Look at this piece of play where they've lost it at one end, and here we go. Sully, not the longest kick, but look at that. That is just an example of the quality of these players. And the last point I'd say there, Pete, is this Tassie side has plenty of skill too and plenty of ability. But what they're up against is a side that's just enough, a fraction better, a little bit better, and it just spreads out, doesn't it?
Andy Bennett, as someone once said, it's a feeling of deja vu all over again.
Well, and I think Phil makes a huge point. One of the problems you have with the TSL at the moment is their level of training, the environment they grow their football and grow as footballers in, is not as intense as is the quality that the VFL grows their footballers in because of that AFL influence. When we had, I was worried once we lost the Devils down here, where was the real quality in this competition? Where was the huge, where are the players that come that really pushes people along?
Shinners and Brown back in the middle, and
Jacob.
They find themselves having to go with the slightly not taller option there, the VFL, but they're manufacturing pretty well with what they've got, and they're starting to really dominate the contest here as we see another turnover bed with a sweeping handball turn to Dwyer has been really impressive. And this man out in front is outstanding, Dean Galea, and we'll get another opportunity on goal. In fact, he won't. He's going to go in short, really unselfishly, look for his Port Melbourne teammate in Kane, but the turnover wasn't good. Woolley got the footy but gave it up just as quick as he had it. Kane with another shot on goal. But McKenna, who's been really strong and really resilient down back,
he's been
saw it through.
Yeah. A couple of tired sides there, sorry. Tom Allwright had the ball, and that handball at the top was a tired body who did it.
And that's twice he's done it now too. Gary is, I think, Andy, needs to send the runner out and tell these blokes to stop being so unselfish.
Yeah.
They've cost themselves a couple of goals, Victoria, and there's Fleming just with a little chip pass, which wasn't much good either. So a chance for Tassie to break. Pendlebury just comes out, though, sprints hard at the footy, got his right hand to it. That was terrific stuff from Chris Pendlebury. Up the line he goes. The intended target was Martin. Have they kept the ball in play? Somehow they've managed to be able to do that. Goods with a strong body, Fleming in the front spot.
Stevens again at target. He's 5'10". He's of sentiment. I thought, it's extraordinary, really, isn't it?
I didn't push that. A minute ago, they kicked the ball in the forward line, and they had Standen, Stevens, and Clay Hardy with their targets. This ain't going to work.
No.
Hoy to Valenti. Now Ross takes a good two-grabber. Hoy follows up. Goes with the right foot to Galea in the pocket. That time he pushed his man rather than use the body. And there were two actions, and Ben Reynolds is going to be the man who'll come up with the free kick. But looking at Dean Galea's face, I don't think he shares the umpire's viewpoint on that.
Is it?
Certainly doesn't look...
No, good bit of umpiring. You've got to give him credit where that's due. That was good umpiring.
Ben Reynolds' kick wasn't good again. They've forced the turnover, and they're just really starting to run in waves now, the VFL. They're going to get another opportunity up forward again. I reckon McKenna is just enforcing himself on every contest. Galea going up that time with Haratuku, but
his body's been really good at it.
Outstanding.
In the defensive run. He's fumbled a bit. We'd like him win a bit of ball and run with it, but you can't doubt his endeavour and the quality of his work when it's a contested ball in the air.
So they'll bring the ball back in now. It's a 49-point margin to the VFL.
carriage.
All of a sudden, they're finding themselves really struggling, Tasmania, to get himself out of that back 50. Brady Jones, he was a clean pickup, wasn't it? Inboard, nice handball to Clay Hardy. They're certainly using the corridor to, well, as best effect as they can. Bowden in turn now. So they've got some run here now. One on 1 foot is what we're looking for, Tasmania. And again, they're not delivering. And dropping back in the hole is Shinners, and all too easy. Giving away a bit of 50 there. So some frustration creeping into the game here for Tasmania.
Well, he had a one-on-one that he could have gone to, Andy, and went to 3 Victorian players. Disappointing. Anyway, Shinners, after the 50-metre penalty, to Baird, to the hot spot. There's going to be a few jumping here at the back. Nicely tidied up. That was Walters in the original instance. Goods does well. Got across there in front of Cox, who was aware of the presence coming towards him. Now he's got a man on Cook in the middle, but he decides that he's going to go back and have the shot for goal. And yet again, turnovers costing them dearly. And it's going to be Martin who is going to have the shot for goal.
You've got to control. When you're up against a really good side, you've got to control and manage all that you can control. And one of them is to make good decisions when you have the ball in your hand. And we've had a couple of bad ones in the last 30 seconds for Tassie.
Kyle Martin's managed a couple, and that time missing to the near side. The margin then is now 50 points. Take note of that. We're almost halfway, well, we're about halfway through the third quarter, and the margin is 50. It's got the signs that it might be a fair bit more than that before the end of the game. Victoria 10-12, Tassie 3-4. You're watching the state game on Grandstand.
Brady Jones with a kick in duties, and that's a wonderful mark from over the top. Plemming on that occasion. So he's very slight in body, but so agile and terrific over the head. Gee, Jones will give himself a fly and take a really strong mark.
There's two guys, both Jones and Fleming. The longer it from either side, it's got better and better as it goes, but that's where he's let him down.
Turnover again here. Towers with a big opportunity. He's just been run down the last moment. Great tackling. So Harry Walters in the last side defence. Gee, they're having to work hard here every time. Brady Jones with a wonderful grab. And I reckon he's one guy, as you mentioned, that's really sort of stood up in the traffic. Jake Cox at times looked comfortable. But all in all, the Tasmanian team look a little bit outclassed for mine. Aaron French now running the line. Kick forward in the Andrew Lee target. Laycock did well. His hands are always good. He flipped out a handball over the top here to Waller. But Waller's kick again's a turnover. And it's becoming the story of the day, dropping in the hole there, Ben Jolly. And again, the VFL down back, very resilient. They'll cross along the ground and Skipper with plenty of time to go.
Beautiful kick from Skipper as well. Had to be precise and found Burston on the defensive edge of the centre square. He's got a couple to choose from in the middle. Tower bends down on the cricket wickets and takes a gully catch. Now Valenti turning one way, then the other. Looping handball to Sewell. He returns the compliment to Valenti. He was dispossessed of the footy, sticking at the task. Waller did very well. Sewell goes in to give him a bit of a chop out. Here's Towers launching one inside the 50. Galea's at the back. He got a shove. Ball comes to the ground. Sam Dwyer kicked the goal and kicks the Rovers' opportunist goal. He doesn't miss from there. And Dwyer gets his first goal of the afternoon. And the Vics continue to steamroll away now out to 56 points.
It was pretty methodical, wasn't it? Once they won the ball back in defence. And it was coming home. It was a bad game. We talk about turnovers again, but Kane Waller's turnover killed him. Phil, it's looking ugly.
Yeah, it is. I've got Sam Fleming with me here on the bench. Sam, I've just been commenting on the structure of your game. It's a great thing for VFL football that you play such clinical football.
Oh, yeah, it's just great to be out there, and certainly with the guys we've got playing, you know, all highly skilled guys, and that's the only reason it's so clinical, because everyone can use the ball so well.
I understand that. Look, you've come out of a premiership. What's it like playing in this game? How do you see the skill of these players?
Oh, great. It's definitely a little bit of a step up for sure, and you notice that in training during the week, the intensity was up, and just the way the ball moves, it's a bit faster. It's just, like I said, mate, it's good to be out there.
And here's his coaching. We comment on this, I think. What can you tell us about his coaching?
How long you got?
Well, give us a quick one. Give us a quick one. How do you approach this game, and what's he done well?
Oh, he's just very clear in his message, and you know exactly what he wants to get out of you, and he just seems to get it across very well.
All the best to you. Well done.
Thanks, mate.
You know, I love the way Phil gives them a cuddle when they come on. I think that's important.
He's certainly a lover, not a fighter, no doubt about that. We've just seen Michael
he's got history.
Kick behind. That little bit of play. Had an opportunity kicking goal, but didn't make the most of that opportunity. And Cook too. He's another player that's just evolving as this contest starts to open up a little bit. Ben Jolly In turn. So they've got plenty of numbers, and Miles Suchi, that wasn't his best effort, that's for sure. And numbers are, I'll tell you what, one thing Tassie are doing, they're still working hard, Andy, and tackling and keeping the contest as tight as possible.
I don't doubt endeavour at all, at any time. But tell you what, when fatigue comes in, it's decision-making, you know, your ability to make good decisions goes, and that's what we've seen with Tassie a little bit of late.
A little chance here, an opportunity, running through, taking it out the air was Cook, got it forward. McKenna again trying to hold up Galena's at the full. Mychik, gee, he's been very quiet, Andy. We'll talk about him in a minute. Nick McKenna now kick around the corner, but it's all Goods. And it's Adam Goods' brother Brett, who's also a star for the VFL. Handball in turn. Gee, the left footer on shot on goal, just blinded by the light. Didn't see that, guys. But Haratuku has taken a mark right on the goal line. Billy Burston. It was, gee. He's a big lump of lad, he's just a presence, and you wonder at his age, 21, 22, whether he will get an opportunity down the line as he pops up one through for another goal. I just want to give you some names here, Andy Bennett. Stevenson, Podsiadley, Callanan, Isles, Moore, Horsley, Zorko, Barlow, Mzungu, Giles, Malera, Sade and Dixon. And what do those names mean to you?
Come late to the game.
That's right. They're all games that are 20-something blokes that are 20-something. Now, that's just a little list that I did over breakfast over 2 minutes this morning.
Thank God I got that one.
So what's going to happen here, of course, is 5 or 6 of these guys in their mid-20s have still got opportunity. Phil, we've got an injury concern down there on the boundary line.
Yeah, Vince Ponsonby, that ankle doesn't look too good. Ice means I think you're out, are you, Vince?
Yeah, I reckon.
Disappointing for you, of course.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. Would like to finish the game, but...
been tough. I mean, you're a young side, but the VFL side just a little bit more poised and accomplished.
Yeah, they are for sure. We stuck with them for probably a quarter and a half, and then they sort of got a run on, and the experience and that's beat us, I think.
And marking, you weren't quite able to take those big marks inside 50. We fancied.
Yeah. They had a loose man, I think, dropping back all the time, and they've done that pretty well. And yeah, they're good defenders. So.
We wish you all the best. Exciting moment in your football, though, isn't it? Playing for the state.
Yeah. It's one of the most exciting ones I've had. So yeah, it's been good.
Look after yourself.
Cheers, mate.
What a shame it ends in disappointing fashion for Vince Ponsonby, the 21-year-old, speaking there with Phil Cleary. Well, this is just about a mirror image of the second quarter and the way things unfolded there. Tasmania kicked the first goal, Victoria the next 5, and that's where they stopped it in the second quarter. But they've got an opportunity of getting a bit further than that here. Bowden's kick, pretty good. Spots up a target in Cox. It's very stagnant, though. Nothing to go to. Skipper's just in the hole. That's why he doesn't want to kick it out there. And he's kicked it to Jones, and getting across the front and doing a good job was Towers. But Wade Skipper was just in that area where the ball was going to fall. Yeah.
We just,
couldn't kick it in there because Skipper would have easily taken the mark. So he had to take the odds to it. And that's a shallow throw in, I think. So we're going to have a reload. Boundary umpire also feeling a strain as the afternoon progresses. We've had some very short quarters, though. Might get to test Andy Bennett's singing skills at the end of the game.
Warming up now, Pete.
2 25-minute quarters. So is the weight challenge lady, unfortunately. She's warming up. Baird got it out. Valenti lays the tackle. Down the base of the pack, it was, whoops, a little bit going on there. All right, sat on his backside. And so they want to move it on quickly, and that's good stuff. Out comes Lee, and getting across the front. Pendlebury takes the mark. Now the umpire has found a free kick for a push. It's a Victorian ball anyway, and it goes to Shinners, who in turn gives it back to Pendlebury, so he finished up with it anyway. And they go to the Derwent side of the ground. Ross, handball wasn't great to Dwyer, made him wait for it. Good's there to mop it up, and then he handballed behind Ross. So it's getting a little sloppy even for the big V as well. But the thing about that for them is that they lead by more than 10 goals.
And the challenge for them is they've got to keep the foot down, isn't it? There's a risk now. Their risk is, the only risk they have is that they back off and don't play the football they're capable of.
I don't think Gary Ayres would be very pleased if that sort of thing happened, Andy.
Skipper and Brown just nullified themselves again. It's going to end up in the hand here of Stevens, who just hurries the ball. Now, an opportunity here for Tasmania. Trent Stanton, we know he's a goal kicker. Kept it on the ground, followed up the second effort, was really clever. He'll try and kick around his left foot into the post. Gee, it was a good effort, Trent Stanton. He was really good early. That occasion, 3 or 4 terrific efforts. But unfortunately, into the dreaded post, and they move it pretty quickly here in Hardigan. Out in the back pocket. Just been interesting, the different game styles have been clear as well. That
the ability to switch the footy that the VFL have done all day today, Andy, has just created more opportunities. And with the VFL players dropping in that hole all the time, perhaps Tassie just haven't got their nuts and bolts right as far as using the footy and where to kick it today.
Beautiful.
But there they go again, the VFL with an opportunity. Towers, he had everything to kick for. Nothing home and left it right to the right-hand side, out of bounds in the full.
He butchered it. Yeah. Billy Burston was terrific, 1 or 2 on 1. Inside 50s, we have here 18, wait for it, 18 to 44.
It's got
Massive.
that feel about it too, hasn't it?
Massive.
Walters across the back line. Just going with that little 15-metre kick, which has got themselves into trouble a few times. Brady Jones, a great sporting story. Takes us back to the days, Andy, where blokes used to play footy and cricket, but we just don't see it anymore these days. French up the line. Pendlebury got to the front spot. Lee was waiting for it. Goods applied the tackle. Somehow just wrenched the ball away from his opponent. That's not 15 metres, umpire.
9.
It was about 7.5. Now through the middle they come. Here's Skipper. He kicks a long ball, but this time he goes short and drifting up. Sam Fleming, who had a spell on the bench, wants to join the party up forward. Their tape measure, I don't think has been quite working today, the umpires. They've done a good job, but gee, they've played a few short marks.
That one was a bit short, I agree, but Fleming's versatile, isn't he? But how about that little kick from Wade Skipper? You know, he hasn't had a heap of the ball. Gee, the delivery was perfect.
And normally I wouldn't worry about those marks so much, but the man was standing on the boundary line. He calls play on, the ball goes over. Victoria doesn't finish up in this position. Fleming's had a great day. From just inside the 50, he loads it up and slides it across the face of the goals. Let's get down to Phil Cleary as we tick through time on in this third quarter.
Yeah, well, John Baird was just coming off before, and Tom Allwright, number 3, had been tagging him. You'd like this, Andy. I think it was straight out of your textbook. And there was a fair bit of lip, Andy, as they came off, and lip from the bench as well. And someone, I think, said to them, "Is that what you've got to do in a state match? Tag a 31-year-old?" or something like that.
Nasty.
And I thought, so it was rather nice down here. It got me a little bit fired up. I thought, gee, that's what we love about football, don't we, Andy?
Good on him. Long may it rain.
He's certainly another professional, John Baird. Hasn't he been outstanding? Amazing that he's come back from those 2 Achilles too, Phil, because I've watched his footy last year towards the back end in that premiership year. As they go forward again here, we'll get back to John Baird in a minute. There's still an opportunity here. Ben Ross with the working hard. Look at the big fella, Galea. Love his work. He's got the tattered arm. He works hard, and I reckon he's got one over the shoulder. So whoever shot on goal. Back to John Baird. He's just, his nick looks as good now, I reckon, Phil, that we've seen for a few years.
There he is.
Does he agree? Yeah, just
Can you see the lip? Can you hear that? Jacob.
There's a bit going on down there. Phil, whatever you do, don't repeat what's going on.
Hey, it's good. I tell you what, it's good, and I'm just going to tell you that Dean Galea has kicked that ball very, very nicely, just shy. But I tell you what, I'm calling that as a goal.
I reckon that's a goal. It's an outstanding goal from a real presence who today has let himself. He's tackled hard. That's his second goal, but it's his unselfishness today. And sometimes I reckon Andy's been a little bit too unselfish.
Yeah, a couple of times he has. He's been very good. I think Ben Reynolds has probably done as well as anyone they would hope for. You know, he's been pretty competitive with him and battled hard. It wasn't Ben Reynolds. I don't think he gave away the free in that. From that instance, and I saw when I came, and I was thinking of where the goals are coming from. Dean Galea might kick 5 or 6 today. If they keep him down, if he keeps him down to a couple, that's a go. He kicked 80 goals, something like that last year in 2011, 70, 80 goals. Kicked 6 in the grand final, didn't he?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
So he's an accomplished player.
In the grand final after quarter time, looks as though they were going to be blown out of the water by Williamstown in the first quarter, but then they played like they played for most of the season, Port Melbourne, and they have a big hand in this. Here's Martin running onto the football, into the pocket. Galea decided to leave it go, and he got the call from Valenti, who wasn't able to take the mark. So in the second term, it was the first goal to Tassie and the next 5. In the third term, it was the first goal to Tassie and the next 6. The margin is 67 points at three-quarter time. Victoria 13-13, Tasmania 3-6. And this is going to be, Andy Bennett, a test of character for the young boys from Tasmania, because the result is in the book. It's just a matter of estimating the margin. And it would be very easy to drop your head in this circumstance. And I'm sure that's what the coach will be saying to them. Forget about the scoreboard. Just try and win the quarter.
Absolutely. You know, it's got to be instinctive. It's got to be just part of your makeup, your growth. If you're going to become a good player individually, or you're going to have some quality as a team, that no matter what the state of the game, your endeavour never drops. That, you know, that's just an absolute given, and that's exactly what I'd be saying if I was Adam Sanders now. Don't let me see any one of you drop your effort or drop your head or don't attack the ball hard. The question is whether they can maintain it, because I reckon the longer this game has gone, what we've seen is Tasmania don't have the preparation. I think that's important. So because they don't play in that hardened environment, they probably don't have as much physical skill or experience either, and quality as a team to maintain. I haven't doubted their endeavour at all at the moment. I think their decision making is beginning to lose its way at the moment, and that's a marker of what the impact of fatigue has on the mind. And the better players here are beginning for Victoria. You can see are really stepping. I like Fleming. He's a good player, isn't he?
I've been struck a couple of times with just a similarity watching the game. And I just thought, Andy, that it had the feel of a couple of AFL games that we've seen this year involving the young teams.
Yep.
Greater Western Sydney and the Gold Coast, when they come up against a professional outfit. And it's just had that feel to it a couple of times.
Yeah, part of being professional is just being really hard, never taking your foot off the accelerator, and just being really confident, and you absorb the pressure that comes your way. And Tassie has had put enormous pressure on Victoria at the start of every quarter. They've tried to maintain that, but each time they've just shrugged it off. You know, these are good players, these guys. You know, John Baird would love playing in this contest. You can see him sitting on the ground, giving a bit on the bench there, giving a bit of lip. This is what you play footy for.
And I reckon, too, at the end of the game, one of the first blokes that Betty will go up to will be Tom Allwright, the bloke who was giving him a bit of lip, because, as you say, that's what it's all about. And go hard while the siren's not sounded. And then, gee, that was a good mark from Brady Jones as well.
He's one guy. You were talking, David, during the commentary about the sorts of guys who might step up because they're mature age. He's one guy who probably hasn't. He was, you know, I hadn't sort in the back of my mind who that might be for Tassie. You would have said Jake Cox. You would have said Brady Jones, especially given his. You know, he's a really good player in cricket. So there's something, you know, cricket's a different game than football, but it says something about his mental makeup and his ability to play at top level. You know, it gives you a bit of confidence in that. And he's stepped up. Jake Cox, maybe he's had moments. Bowden, maybe, but Bowden's been a bit quiet.
Aren't the stats interesting? Inside 50's extraordinary stat. You mentioned it's almost GWS versus North Melbourne type stats like we saw here at Bellerive a few weeks ago. And they've given themselves an opportunity, Tassie, early, but gee, the overround power of the VFL certainly come to the fore. I can't wait to hear what Gary Ayres has got to say here at three-quarter time. He's so methodical. Let's have a listen.
But I reckon it came about, though, as much about our constructive ball use and your effectiveness, which is what we touched on at half-time. So once we did that, and the simple fact that then they couldn't score, you not only put the pressure on them with our disposals and our style of play, but also, too, obviously, the scoreboard. You'd agree? Yep. So keep doing it, mate. Keep doing it. You'll get it. You'll get it, all right? That's what we want to see, all right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking it on, but, of course, then it's just the finish. And the more times you do it, obviously, the more chances you'll get to actually score. Now, what they're going to do with Beardy is we think they're actually tagging him at the minute, all right? So that's fine. Now, if he wants to do that, other on-ballers given the opportunity just to try and keep him away from Beardy at a stoppage. That's point number one. Point number two, Johnny, you can take the centre bounce, and then Cookie, all right, Maria money, all right, then Beardy gets you, and then you just drift onto the ball, all right, and then Beardy will just drift back. So we'll see if we've got the opportunity just to take him away from where he doesn't want to be, all right? So you happy to do that, mate? Okay, all right. Now, the other thing with their forward setup here too is that it really worked well when we had a deeper target, and I reckon you raised your vision and were quite good at getting in there reasonably quickly. Now, the thing that I would say, though, is if our high forwards can then get back for that front and square type opportunity, all right, because a couple of times it came in, and I don't reckon we had our crummers where we needed to get them, all right? It is high work rate, we know, because you're pushing up to be someone that we can exit to, but then also, too, you've got to be able to work back the other way, all right? You've got to be able to work back the other way. But something like 10 scoring shots to 1 was just a terrific effort of real Victorian pressure, all right? So what we want to do now is just run the game out, continue what we came over here to do, and that's be impressive, use a bit of flair and run the game out. Let's go.
Finish up. I was just thinking, you know, Andy, do you reckon Gary Ayres has ever posed that question, is that all right with you?
Yeah,
and someone has said, oh, no, I don't think I'll do that.
Exactly what I wrote down. I like the way he sort of tentatively invited him into the conversation, but there wasn't, you know, there was implied in there, was it, listen.
When you play with Gary Ayres, is it someone you
We'll come back to that in a moment.
Yep.
Let's go to Adam Sanders, who's down with Phil Cleary.
Adam, I was commenting during the game, I thought your endeavour's good and your stoppage work was okay, and I look at your stats and you're quite comfortable with that, but not getting a return when you go forward. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it's obviously the VFL are very good at dropping a man behind the ball, and they've done it really well. We've been trying to get extra number around the contest. Obviously that causes that little bit of trouble, but our endeavour probably just been trying to be a little bit cleaner with the ball when we get it.
It's frustrating for a coach though when you think you're closer than the scoreboard says in terms of the way you've gone at the ball, but not getting that return.
Yeah, like I say, I think the biggest thing is that the VFL have been very good getting the ball out into some space, whereas we've been probably a little bit scratchy at times, but I can't fault their endeavour.
All the best to you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much to Phil. Adam, he's done a really good job with what he's had, I reckon. I was just going to get back to that point with so many great coaches out of that Hawthorn system, and Jeans and Kennedy installed that. Was Gary as one of those blokes you automatically thought to yourself?
No, absolutely not.
Big talker, quiet sort
not
of
when I first knew him.
Yep.
But the more it went, yes.
Okay.
Gary Ayres, when I first went there, was a lazy. That's what they taught him. Lazy. He's got lots of ability. He's a little bit overweight. He's been in the system for a while. Does he really want it? Does he really want it? Yabby turned him around. Absolutely.
Rodney Eade?
Rocket was always.
He was ready. Yeah.
He was ready. He was a really. Alan Jean says of Rocket Eade, he's the first guy that understood my game plan. He's the first guy that knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, it's funny, the guys over the years who've come into the coaching ranks. So I had a lot to do with Mark Harvey over the years and knew that he was going to be a coach. But in his time as a player, no one ever thought that Mark Harvey was going to be as good as he was at the coaching caper. All right, final quarter.
Yeah,
Laycock.
Tasmania going to score a goal the first here again, 4 quarters in a row. That's quite a big stat, actually.
Well, they won't do it this time because Laycock took it out of the air and then he was tackled. And so it's a free kick to Victoria. Osman goes forward, Burston the flyer. Galea got knocked out of it. And the umpire says it's going to go the other way. It'll be Reynolds, the man who just copped a bit of a hold. He comes out wide. Kick had to be precise and it was good. Here's Harry Walters, 25 years of age, one of the comparative veterans in the Tassie team today. Well, as Andy Bennett said at the start of the day, there wasn't much in the average age of the two teams. Kane, just perhaps a little too cute with the handball. Lee got it backwards. Musica ducked his head. Lee was dispossessed. Towers just wanted the footy a bit more. Now Valenti taken down to the ground in a strong tackle.
Fumbles.
It was actually Musica who came in to lay the tackle and fumbles again.
Yeah, and that's an indication of fatigue.
And it's only going to get worse, you would think, as we get through the last 30 minutes of this game. Plenty of time after the game to wrap it up. Nicely done by Laycock, who got it out that time to Walters. The kick goes very wide. And nothing much the two players who were in pursuit there could do about it. Osborne was one of them, Bowden was the other, and it'll be thrown back into play.
So Jason Laycock and Wade Skipper to renew acquaintances. Skipper did okay that time with the body working, just nudged his opponent out of the contest. So the VFL, Cookie's the yell, and Cookie did pretty well on that occasion. Picked up the footy. He's got a one-out opportunity here. Galea pushed Reynolds under the contest. Reynolds is good enough to provide a good one too. Running their lead in a real good hand was Brody Mychek, who's been a little bit quiet today. So picking up the footy there was Waller. In turn, the kick now needs to be pretty good. One of the guys has been a bit chirpy and got involved a little bit earlier. And we're talking about Tommy Allwright, of course. Had a little bit to say with John Baird, and John Baird had a bit to say with him. And it was all very entertaining State of Origin footy. Michael Music, I've been pretty impressed with him today. He's another one that's almost put his hand up to a certain extent, but his kick let him down, and Pendlebury too steady. But there's an opportunity here with a turnover. Standen, he's worked hard with limited opportunities. But they're going to go again through the VFL. Plamin, he was tackled. Well, good pressure there. Standen wanted to play off, but he said no. And the kick comes back with Ted. Now a little opportunity going short, and they do. And Jay Bowden comes out, takes the mark. He's a beautiful kick for a goal, and will kick 45 metres out directly in front.
Here we go again. First goal of the quarter, maybe.
That's an extraordinary stat if that does happen. And I reckon this man is a good one to have the ball in hand. Jay Bowden is a beautiful kick at the footy.
We're going to have to call for the medical staff for our statistician Rick Findlay at the moment. His blood pressure is just elevated.
Shoulder rub at the moment.
Jay Bowden, he'd love to cap his day with a goal just inside 50. It's a nice looking kick, left to right. It leaves it just to the left-hand side, one behind. So that stat may stay intact, Rick Findlay. And it's a 66-point margin to the VFL.
Short kick, Pendlebury to Fleming, who returns the favour. Osborne, who looked as though he might have been suffering some cramp out on the other side of the ground a little while ago, couldn't really chase. Pendlebury gets the switch happening. Oh,
tackle low.
Able to get it away. Hardigan, he ducked underneath the tackle, which should have been at his hips. Kane to Fleming, kicks into the man. That man was Cox. Good second effort from him as well. Stands up when Fleming did not. Cox looks in the corridor, gives it off to Webb. Webb goes over the top with a handball. Goal coming up. Musica in the square. And it's smothered. Well, well. It looked for all the world as though they were
shades of Reece Shaw.
He's sure, yeah.
Sat it up so high, it just took forever to get there.
Does this sound silly? They look like they couldn't get a goal, but they look like they couldn't get one either. They just looked at 6s and 7s the whole way up there. And gosh, it was a good bit of play, wasn't it? A lot of credit.
You need a little bit of awareness. You knew he was coming. It's easy from here, just had to hold it and let him go on. But anyway.
So out of defence here, kick to a 1-on-1 here, and Fleming's so strong and a bigger body and a taller body on Jake Cox, and took another mark, double finger marks. Now for the reliable Port Melbourne defender. He's a great player.
Pretty close to best man of the
I just wrote that here as well. Peter, we've been working together for too long.
Laycock found himself in a reasonable position. Tom Allwright got it going forward. Cox again, working hard, buttering up there on that occasion was Blackberry. Numbers now again. The other occasion with Fleming. Did well inboard to Osborne. They've got some space. They've got some numbers here. Shane Valenti. Not one of his biggest days you've seen, but he's been effective every time he got it. Ross in turn now. One-on-one kick, but it favours Ben Reynolds, who, as Andy's mentioned a couple of times, done a good job in turn to Woolley. Kicked the middle of the ground is an absolute shocker. And this is where the difference in the game's been. The VFL have been on top. Their kicking's been precise. Valenti on that occasion. Not so good. Haratuku with a chance to fellow big man Skipper. Kick from 45. One out. Opportunity for Galena. Very strong. The umpire said no, not a mark. Still a chance here for Dwyer. Just needs to get a boot on it. Kane will and kick a goal.
Gee, I feel for Ben Reynolds in there. He just did everything he right then. Just couldn't quite get hands. But I admire this guy, Galees. Why you like him? If he doesn't take the mark, he's just going to give you a ferocious contest. Something that's going to happen around you.
I thought he might have taken the mark, actually, with a 2-grabber, but it ends well for
Reynolds
Chris
first.
Kane.
Again, I reckon he marked.
Let's have a look at this just before we get down. Yeah, maybe he had a hand in it. I think probably the umpire got the right decision there, but it didn't matter because Chris Kane got his second goal, and Phil Cleary, just for once, the Vicks have been able to get the first goal of the quarter, and it might see the floodgates opening up.
The floodgates are open. Yeah, Peter, that's a good call. I was just going to say, Ben Reynolds, gee, I reckon he's played well. Under massive pressure. Galea, one of the best marking players in the VFL, and he's just worn him, you know, really tried hard. But the other key factor is you're watching the boys from Tasmania just tiring a bit of Musica, for example. I've just seen him. He looks very weary as he goes to the bench. So you can see the level of fitness of the AFL players.
Jones to Stevens to Cox, and an athletic attempt at a spoil by Liam Hoy. Just left nothing behind on that, fisted it 30 metres to the boundary.
Ben Reynolds, just quickly, he was a centre-half forward right up until 6 months into the year last year, just towards the death knell, wasn't he? And he's really transformed his game as a defender, Andy. It's been a delight to watch because he was out of confidence middle of last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he struggled with injuries. He's got a bit of a hip problem. I was talking to him before, and I think he'll struggle through this season and he's got a bone spur as well. So he's not playing, and he hasn't played probably for a couple of years free of injury. You know, you watch, he's been running around doing it hard. But he's a quality player. What he's done, you know what we're saying beforehand, there's one thing to put on the Tassie State Guernsey. There's another one to play well each time you do it. And each time he's done it, he's represented himself and his family, his club really well.
Dwyer to Martin. Burston got hands to it. Little quick handball. Heard a voice. The voice is Towers. And he should finish from 30 metres out, and does. A clinical finish from Dean Towers, but a wonderful pickup. And that is the difference between the teams a lot of the time today. their hands are so clean, the Vicks, and the implied pressure sometimes with Tassie has caused the fumble. Towers joins the party. And how many goal kickers is that now, Rick? Is that 10? It is. So Dean Towers takes the margin out to 77.
See, that handball, you're right, that handball wasn't an easy one. It wasn't a half volley. It's one you have to take halfway up your ankles, and that's hard. He's very happy with himself, and so he should be. I like the look of this guy. He's playing off the wing. What is he? What size is he? Dean Towers. He's 189. He's an old 6'2", 6'3" player. Yeah. And got a bit to recommend him, I reckon.
I think he might have attracted a little bit of attention from AFL people as well.
John Baird's kick forward was just hurried a little bit. Got a smother, but in turn, they did well on Woolies. Kicking a kick forward. I reckon McKenna's been terrific too. You can really hold that up high, the two defenders, Reynolds and McKenna, but unfortunately the work and the glutton of possession for the VFL has taken its toll. Jason Laycock in the middle of the ground. Kick forward, Aaron French. Little opportunity now to hit up a target. Can he do so? Big Brown. He's looked a bit off the pace, to be fair, but he might give himself an opportunity here and doesn't do so. The skinny body, Liam Hoy, too good, too solid. In turn to Goods. He'll go on board to Fleming and VFL with run, dash and carry here at Bellerive Oval.
And it's Ross who looks for Burston in the front spot. Dwyer was front and square, something Gary Ayres asked from his little fellas at three-quarter time. Dwyer just shovels it out the door to Martin, now to Sewell, runs up to the 50, didn't blaze away. He was looking for Baird, kicked it at his feet, not for the first time today, it must be said, with Miles Sewell. His disposal hasn't been what it normally is. Marcon dives in. Victorian player down off the ball is Cook, just a couple of metres away. There he is, sucking in the big ones, and the umpire will come in and bounce it. So Victoria has now kicked the last 8 goals of the game, after Tassie kicked that first goal of the third quarter. Quick recovery as Cook down the base of the pack. He's either lost one boot or he's found one. I'm not sure. He throws it away in the setting sun here at Bellerive Oval, and what has been a beautiful day after both Melbourne and the southern capital Hobart were absolutely drowned yesterday. Melbourne with one of its wettest May days ever, and the weather condition was not great here in Hobart yesterday, but this is just a beautiful setting, a beautiful day, and why wouldn't you want to be at the state footy, Andy?
I don't know why you're surprised. It's always like that. It's down here. Saturday afternoon,
we must have flown into a different place on Friday night then.
Billy Burston taking his opponent, Brody Mike, checking the grounded. Now some good opportunity here to switch and do it with a bit of space. And Nick McKenna, he'll get up a little bit of a jog trot. Gee, the kick was a shocker to Ben Reynolds. He's got time to assist and help out and pick up the footy. Got it in turn over to Webb. Steadies the ship. Can he find a target this occasion? Yes, he can now. The running carry here, Brady Jones, been really impressive. The former Tasmanian cricketer, well, current Tasmanian cricketer, must be said. Jay Bowden in time, got around some traffic, did well, spotted up a target, and Scott Stevens, he finds him.
Has his moments, Jay Bowden, on him. When you see him, you think
he does. Yeah, he's the one today, I thought, Andy, along with Jake Cox, that have got the sideways peripheral footy that could be really, really impressive, but probably just hasn't had one of those days. Scott Stevens, the hardened skipper of the premiership side, Launceston. He's been used in unusual roles today. I reckon he's suffered from the lack of heights going forward, the Tasmanian outfit. But he'll get a chance to kick a goal. He'd love to kick a goal for his beloved state. It just leaves against the left, so Tassie not quite been able to get that next goal they look for. 76 points the margin. Hope you join the coverage here on ABC Grandstand.
Well, I'm sure the fans of the Big V are, because it has been a dominant performance by Victoria, as a lot of people expected. Osborne feigning the handball because he wanted to duck around onto his preferred foot. Finished up giving it to Marcon. They crisscross the ground. One-on-one here for Burston, but he's actually got Jolly riding shotgun. Uses the 1-2. Dwyer comes on a short lead. Jolly just needed to be aware of the players around him, and he was. Martin did nicely. Got it off to Marcon, to Jolly. Now Kane takes it on the half volley. He's got time to straighten up. He looks for Haratuku, who's got a metre on his opponent. And he got out in front of McKenna and took the mark. McKenna's battled manfully, but Haratuku just saw him lose contact. And when that happens with a full forward, you're in trouble.
Well, the use of the, McKenna really had no choice, no chance. They just, once they'd won the ball back there at halfback, Billy did a really good job there. Billy Burston did really good, spread. They were smart when they didn't stand around and watch, made space. Once they won the ball at halfback.
Haratuku kicks it high and kicks it left. So he's got 3 goals, 1 today.
interesting if you're down there, Phil. Went into the game. We knew about Sewell, we knew about Valenti, and we knew about a lot of the Penderbury goods, etc. I've really enjoyed some of the lesser lights, I reckon. Towers, Marcon, Cook and Osborne. They've really given themselves an opportunity here today, haven't they?
Oh, look, they certainly have. Sometimes, you know, you can go half a season and not see these boys so much. And so if you'd asked me about them, I could only say, look, seen them a little bit, not sure. But you watch them today and it just shows you the quality of players coming through the VFL competition. I've been watching it a long time and it's quite remarkable, really, the talent of them. So, you know, good things happening. Pathways, you know, second pathways for players, very, very important. And Andy's made a point about, you know, not having that stateside in Tassie. You know, it's disappointing, really.
Ends up here with Saul. Good words there from the former Coburg legend. Phil Clear on the boundary line for us today here at ABC Grandstand. Brody Myercheck, he's interesting football. We must talk about him before the end of the play, Andy, if we can. It's a good pick-up and a really clean one from Jake Cox. Now some running carry through the middle. This is where he struggled all day to hit a target. Trent Stanley, he's about 5'9". Again, he's a small target there for the Tasmanian side. Gee, it's little wonder they haven't taken many marks up forward. They lock it in.
Gee, that's a hard decision. That's holding the ball he's paid there. And Osborne was the only one. Yeah. I think the umpire got it right because he did actually dive on the footy, but he was the man making the play.
Yeah, I like... Where's the prior opportunity?
I think prior opportunity. Sorry to cut you off there, Andy. Was really good and clean, and a little man to a little man. It's like 5'8" midgets kicking at each other, but Stevens did well in a lot of traffic and took the good mark. And I've never seen a glaring statistic for the lack of tools for Tasmania today up forward and real targets. They put a lot of eggs in the basket to a 19-year-old kid. Well, I would have liked to see a bit of a hand today. This guy has worked very hard without much reward, Scott Stevens, though. We love a goal. I reckon he deserves a goal too. He's a passionate Tasmanian. He hits the post well. I reckon they've been a little bit unlucky in this quarter, just missing the goal, but certainly well and truly outclassed. 76-point margin. 15-minute mark of the last quarter.
Andy, I'd like to get your take on that holding the ball rule and the way that it's interpreted in modern footy. I still don't think that we've quite got it right.
No, I think you've got to where there's any disincentive to go first. I reckon that's the problem, isn't it? The spirit of our game is that you go first. So prior opportunity has to be the part. But I think actually they're a bit better at it at AFL level now. They let it go a little bit longer. Yeah. And sometimes you almost get frustrated, blow the whistle, let's get a ball up. But then it finds its way out. And there's a reason to do that, I reckon.
Well, there's one of Phil's coast-to-coasters, and it was Ross down the throat of Haratuku, who's moved really well today. He's a really athletic build, and there's a lot to like about this young man.
Yes.
And showing it up at the top level that he can for a VFL player, and he kicks it nicely, gets his 4th goal. So Khan Haratuku has really had a day to celebrate, as to have the big V. Margin goes out now to 82 points as we head down to Phil Cleary on the boundary line.
Jason, nice of you to talk to me. Things aren't going so well, so you can be growly and tell me where to go, but a little bit of a tough day at the office.
Yeah, no, it's been disappointing. We've won a lot of contested ball, and we've had a lot of shots on goal that sort of just missed, which would have sort of made the scoreboard look a little bit different. So
it's true, the stats haven't been so bad on the stoppages, and your tap work's been good, but when you go forward, not able to pluck any marks.
Yeah, no, I've had a bad spell down there. The ball hasn't come down there a lot when I've been there, unfortunately, but that happens, and yeah, this is just a stepping stone for the next 4 years of representing footy, so it's not a bad way to start winning the contested footy, and yeah, the boys will look forward to redeeming themselves next year, I reckon.
Good words, all the best to you.
Clay Hardy with an opportunity here going forward again, but guess what? That man playing well. He didn't take the mark. He was intercepting Musica at the bottom of the pack. Andrew Lee working hard. Still goods there. He's tackled, dispossessed, but they've got plenty of numbers. Lee Osborne, he's clever. He's a nice user. Let's have a look at him here. Hit a target. Two on one. Gee, just did a pretty good job on that occasion. Might have been Kane Waller, but the turnover eventually happened. The run and carry now, this time through the hands of Towers. Been very impressive.
Nice.
Runs to 40 and kicks a delightful point. Straight into the post. I really enjoyed his game.
This quarter.
Yep. He's a good mover,
better,
isn't he?
Yeah, I like him. Very smooth,
Towers
good at ground level.
These guys, Mark, and they've just been really, really impressive all day.
I actually spoke to Jared Fitzgerald, his coach at North Ballarat, before the game, who's one of the assistant coaches here. And mentioned the fact that when I saw Dean Towers a couple of weeks ago, that he seemed to get better as the game went on, and that's exactly the point you're making here. When players fatigue, they don't move as well, but he doesn't appear to be one of them.
Very fit, very light. They've got him down here as 189, is he? but only 82 kilos, so he doesn't carry a lot of weight. So at the end of the game, that's not a bad advantage.
Well done by the big fella McKenna, who gets himself involved again, ducks around a man. That's terrific stuff. His kick was smothered by Burston.
Worked hard.
But that's the sort of thing that the coach will be very happy with Nick McKenna, involved in about 3 passages of play there, and it might be the 18-minute mark of the last quarter, and his team might be 83 points down, but he showed his teammates something there.
Terrific.
Boundary thrown at half forward for the Vicks. Skipper has done a pretty good job. It's been an interesting contest in the ruck. Mark on to Goods. Looks up in the direction of Galea, who gets rid of his man, gave it across. Well, Kane was there for the assist, but Galea was able to do it himself. And he comes up with Victoria's 17th goal of the afternoon as the VFL romps away.
Quality, isn't it? Because he takes him in the air, but his recovery in his first step, once he gets the ball in his hand, he's actually got really good power. He's strong below the waist, and you watch his first step here, he just gives himself that space. Reynolds wasn't far away from him again, but only needed that little metre, and boom, goal. Good quality.
Thought for a moment he was going to give it to Chris Kane, who was running across, but it was Kane who provided the shepherd. Galea gets his 3rd goal. And now it is 100 points minus 11, so 89. And I don't know, I don't think I'd want to see a 100-point margin in this. I don't think that really gives you an indicator of what Tassie's effort's been.
No, but it does give you an indicator in the difference in the sides. We've got to face that, face the truth. It's there.
Musica kick along the line. He goes pretty lengthy. He's one of those players. Andy, who are the guys that for Tassie? Let's start with them and have impressed you. Jones and Musica, I reckon, too, that haven't looked out of place.
Yeah, I think Music has had his moments.
Yeah.
I think Jones has got better as the day's gone on. If you're talking about youngsters, I think Cox has done enough to make me think, but not consistently enough.
We'll certainly get to the VFL players soon. This guy here is a good size, and we're talking about Kyle Hardigan, 192 centimetres. He's athletic, he's young, and he's one of the plenty of the guys that are going to be looked at very closely. Of course, VFL continuing next week. You think about Port Melbourne, back to Galea, of course. I know they did lose, Peter, 10 or 11 players in the off-season, but they've got the structure still this year. They're going to be very hard to beat. Of course, return to VFL football next week. Can't wait till that starts again. But still at the moment, we've still got some State of Origin footy to play here. And I'll tell you what, the Tassie players have not given up the ghost. They've been belted on the scoreboard, but are giving everything where they can. On this occasion, Cook with a free kick in the middle of the ground will get you, Andy, just in a second. The kick is a good one to Kane right out in front. He takes the mark 40 metres out on a 45-degree angle.
The point I was going to make, you said that Tassie haven't given up the ghost, neither has VFL. You know, there's more reason for them not to chase down. I don't know who made the smother, but that was fantastic. Ben Ross, terrific.
Fantastic.
And that's why they got the shot on goal. That's terrific. And Gary is going, oh, yeah.
Chris Kane, he's such a vital cog in the premiership last year and going forward as they try to go back-to-back Port Melbourne. But today, he's doing it in the blue and the whites of the Big V. He's a serious player, and he's a serious shot on goal generally on that occasion. Just as you're about to build him up, he leaves at the right-hand side. Hasn't been his greatest kicking boots day today.
Well, I've got him down for 2 goals, 6, David.
Yeah. So unusually, he hasn't been sharp. He's one of those guys that clicks them in 5s and 6s, doesn't he? Kicks big bags, and Nick McKenna will do the kick-out duties for Tassie.
Final siren, mercifully not too far away.
He's hit a bit mercifully, isn't it?
McKenna kicked it outside the 50. Is it play on? It is. Baird to Dwyer, and he just strolls in and kicks another one for Victoria. So the Port Melbourne combination again to the 4. Dwyer kicks his 2nd goal of the afternoon, and that was a sign of players being fatigued. Everyone stopped, heard the whistle, and John Baird didn't, and that's where you take advantage of the advantage rule.
Watch this. I feel for Laycock, but you can't get away with that one. You're right, but the big point was Laird just kept his mind on the job, didn't he?
Yeah.
An easy goal. And that 100 points.
Well, that's 10 in a row now. Victoria led by 29 points at the 4-minute mark of the 3rd quarter, and the margin is now 96.
So, back in the middle, 96-point margin. All of a sudden, they've been very methodical, Victoria, when it's counted, no doubt about that, and worked hard and have come down to Tasmania and done an outstanding job for that famous Guernsey. So, there's still an opportunity here for some late momentum and goals and a bit of positivity going forward for either side. In turn there, Cook got the handball out, found a bit of space to Martin. Billy Burston, he'll go on his left foot. He went round 1, ran around 2, in turn to Johnny Baird. Again, unselfishly, end up back with Baird, and he'll kick a captain's point. How did he end up with a boy who's got a smile on his face? I'm not sure the former North Melbourne player can understand himself, but he's been terrific today. He's a leader, he's a captain, and he was the one guy you were really looking forward to seeing today, Andy.
Yeah, and he hasn't disappointed, has he? He'd like to have that again, though. He had Ben Ross running down the inside of him. He should have given it out.
Well, probably Sam Dwyer should have kicked the goal himself anyway, rather than giving it back
True
to
enough.
Baird. Through the middle, turnover again. Ross does well to Sewell. Here's Kane. Clean hands again. That's a brilliant kick by Chris Kane.
This guy must have a cold or influenza or something.
Well, this is
whooping
what
cough, because no one, what's happened?
This is what we're used to seeing from Sam Dwyer in the VFL. He has that inordinate ability to get himself into space in dangerous areas. And I can tell you one thing, he won't be handballing this to John Baird. And he'll go back and probably kick the goal to take it out beyond a 100-point margin. Brilliant skills by Chris Kane to find him. Dwyer kicks the goal, and the Vics make it a triple-figure margin as the final siren approaches.
I've got him down for 3. Is that right? 2 in this last quarter.
Yep.
Yeah, well, you're right. I think the quality part of build-up was Kane's little hook over the shoulder, really good. But Dwyer, you know, it's funny. You sort of you think, oh, is he bludgeon or what? You know, how come that's happened? Is he not chasing his opponent upfield? But it is an art. It is an art to find space, get to dangerous position in the forward line.
24, 25 years old, these couple of last guys. You mentioned Dwyer and Kane, and gosh, they look to me that they have the talent. We saw it all last year in Port Melbourne set up, that they could be playing at the next level without any question of a doubt. Ian Callan, of course, made his debut at 29 years of age. There's plenty of hope.
Now, boys, I don't want to complain about Tasmanian bias, but they're not even putting that goal up on the scoreboard. Oh, now they've got it up there. They didn't put the 19th goal up. They didn't want the 100 points.
Well, don't blink, Pete, because they might get another one here the way they're running and gunning late. The tiring Tasmanians. Valenti in turn got it to Jolly, who went forward, but Clinton Franchus certainly tried hard in his Tasmanian debut as well. Has this man here, Brady Jones, kick forward. It was a good one, a really good one. Landed a hand at French, tried to do a little bit too much. Mychick's been moved up forward. Little clever kick around the corner and found a teammate. And a good teammate that he's very familiar with, Michael Music, of the South Launceston youngster. And he's a 19-year-old kid with a pretty strong body. And he'd like to kick goal number 2 for Tasmania today.
Met his dad last year, Michael Music. He gave me a lift. He's a taxi driver up in Launceston. This has got nothing to do with anything, but he gave me a lift from the airport up at Tassie when we're going to do a game there over at York Park, and had a long chat about Michael and his hopes for footy. And, you know, he was around the draft mark, and he probably hasn't done himself any real harm today. He's had good quality moments. That was a good, strong mark.
No doubt about that. He has had some really nice moments, and that's probably not one of his best, but it does swing left to right late here, but certainly an up and under. Just managed to get the distance, but one behind. So I reckon Adam Sands on the boundary line. You're 102 points down. He'd love another goal or 2 here, Andy, just to keep that margin under 3 figures.
He may run out of time, though, because we've had very short quarters, 25 and a half, 25 and a half, 26 and a half. So not much time remaining, you wouldn't think. And so the only interest now is whether the margin is going to be 3 figures or not. Shinners has been the chop-out man for skipper in the ruck today. Burston continues to run. Short to Kane, good hands, and that's 50. Well, you can't do that sort of thing, unfortunately, and that's going to make a good thing of Chris Kane. Well, under normal circumstances, it'll make a good thing of his goal, but with 2 goals 6 today, you wouldn't be sure, but he won't miss this one. And unfortunately, that's that circumstance, and we saw it in the Geelong-Collingwood game last week where they played the 50 against Josh Hunt. You anticipate the player going, he goes to make a move, but the umpire hasn't called play on, so it's a 50-metre penalty.
Yeah.
It's contentious, but it's to the letter of the law quite right. Chris Kane gets his 3rd goal of the afternoon, and the siren sounds, and it has been, as a lot of people expected, a bit of a demolition job. Tassie were brave in their endeavours, but in the end outclassed, and the Big V romps away to win by 108 points.
Yeah, and you come to the, you know, if you're a Tasmanian supporter, you come to this game with hope in your heart, but somewhere at the back of your head, there's a whole lot of fear. And the reality, it's not just based on fear, it's not an emotion. The reality was that we knew that the VFL side that came here today would be described as accomplished and assured and established, and so it was. They were just very, very efficient.
Andy, let's get down to Phil Cleary, who's got one of the Victorian stars, Dean Towers, who finished off the game so well. Phil?
Yeah, he did. I think it was just under 20 possessions then. You're a boy from outside Colac. I won't spot the town. You tell us which one it is.
Yeah, it's Kawarren.
Kawarren.
Yeah, it's about 15 minutes south of Colac.
My geography gets bad if I start to like little towns. You weren't in the system. Peter, he wasn't in the TAC system. You're outside it. You went to last year. You're playing beautiful football on a wing. What a performance today.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Yeah, it's just wanting to be out here with all the stars from the VFL. I wouldn't have imagined it a couple of years ago, playing out here on a ground like this up in Tassie.
Are you genuinely a shy country boy who's gone into the big smoke at Ballarat to play? You're studying at Ballarat?
Yeah, I'm doing PE teaching at Ballarat, and yeah, it'd be fair to say I'm one of the quieter ones at the Roosters, yeah.
And look, Fitzy was here today. I was commenting on the quality of the coaching. Gary Ayres, an AFL legend, Fitzy, a VFL legend, 3 premierships, Simon Goosey, so many quality people here.
Yeah, they've got some pretty good coaching highlights and footy resumes as well. Yeah, great honour to be coached under them all. So.
Look, I noticed the sharpness of the skills of VFL players today. You spun the ball around, you hit up targets, you ran in numbers, you kicked goals. It's a class act, isn't it?
Yeah, the voice out there was really good. The fellas worked together really well, considering we only had a couple of weeks to prepare as a group. So, yeah, it's great.
And what about, you're an outsider, what about Ayresy as a coach?
Yeah, he's pretty inspirational. He's got a way with words, just get you in the mood for footy.
Well, all the best. A big cheer out to all the people outside Colac at?
Kawarren, that's right.
There you go, all the people in Kawarren.
Well done, Phil. Good on you, and thanks to Dean Towers. 13 disposals, got better as the game went on, and he's got a touch of polish about him too.
Well, and he's got a touch of all-round ability, because his ability at, what is he, he's 189, his ability at ground level is terrific. Good running ability, good in the air. The 13 surprises me, because I suppose you remember the last little bit, I thought he would have got up around the 20 mark, but all of his possessions were quality. But also, he smothered, he tackled, he chased, he was good in that area as well.
Hard to pick a bad player for the Vics, really, but I thought Sam Fleming set the standard from the word go.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. Wherever he went, whatever he did, had quality. You talked about him in that quarterback role and certainly fulfilled that. What he has is real judgment about when to go with his player, when to peel off, when to go for your mark, when to punch from behind. Very, very accomplished effort.
10 points the margin at quarter time, 36 at half time, 67 at three-quarter time, and the final margin 108 points in favour of the VFL. 2017 137 to 311-29. Just the 2 goal kickers for Tassie, a host of goal kickers for Victoria, and that's exactly the point that we were making at the start. It was a bit of a worry to see where Tassie's goals were going to come from.
Yeah, in hindsight, I think the Tassie selectors would have said we should have probably taken at least one other known forward. So what I would have taken a young, no, he's not young anymore, Adam Derbyshire, who has played at Devils level, at VFL level, plays for Launceston. He would have at least given some organisation. He leads well, competes pretty well in the air.
Brady Jones led all comers with disposals. Thought Cox was pretty good with 12, did some good things. Musica didn't do his chances of getting some attention any harm at all, and obviously a lot bigger numbers. And look at the marks for Sam Fleming as well. That's a point that we made at the start. He is in that quarterback role where he takes the mark and basically directs the play from half-back, and even got up the ground a few times today.
I think he was probably really advantaged by having Gary Ayres as coach, because Gary Ayres obviously has a huge amount of confidence in him. In effect, sometimes playing that loose man back in defence is an easy role, but you also have to be smart, and there's a risk to it. But Gary Ayres was very confident to let him run and go and play his natural game. They set up an extra man back there, and he filled the role to perfection. 2 best and fairest in a row at Port Melbourne, which we know is a very good side. It's a good testament to his quality.
Chris Kane being congratulated by Jared Fitzgerald. He's a clean player. He was off target today, but if he had been on target, he could have finished with anything, Chris Kane.
What do you know, with 3-6?
I had him 3-6,
yeah. He got a lot. He looked, even from the start of the game, he looked dangerous. Their whole forward line, didn't it? It looked more dangerous. They had it more covered at ground level in the air. Galea was good. Paratuka was good. Kane on the ground. And the end, Sam Dwyer was good. They just had all the bases covered up forward. But of course, the ball was there so much. Inside 50s. At one stage, I think it was about a 40 gap. What have we got there?
Well, at half-time, by the way, John Baird getting the medal for the best player on the ground by the look of it. So there's another acclamation for Bairdy in his great career, in particular at VFL level. Inside 50s at half-time were 25-12. They finished up 63-26.
I'm not seeing that spread very often. I've not seen that spread at all. That's a huge gap.
63, you often see teams reach that, but as you say, it's the difference between them. And 26 times inside 50, when you consider they scored 14 times, Tassie, but 311 is always going to kill you. And not surprisingly, the number's so lopsided. 313 disposals to 206, so more than 100. In fact, it was 107 disposals the margin and 108 points the margin. Let's get down to Phil Cleary down on the ground.
Yeah, got Chris Pendlebury. Well, look, it's often said you've got a brother who plays in the AFL, so you're well accustomed to the successes that come with footy. This is a big day for you, Chris, I would have thought.
It is, you know, it's obviously the highest level that I can get to at the moment, so it's a great honour and a privilege to play with all those other great players and all those great coaches, so it's very pleasing to get a good win.
And you come out of a great setting, the Collingwood setting, and you're in that as a VFL player. But the quality of play today, you'd be in a good position to judge that. They're very skilled players in the VFL, aren't they?
Oh, you know, I reckon it's the second best competition in Australia, and the skills and everything that we do is of very high quality. So it's just very pleasing to get the result.
We wish you all the best, Chris. Great work today too.
Thanks.
Great game.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
I reckon there's every chance that his brother could be sitting in the hotel room watching this game at the moment, Scotty Pendlebury, because I saw him at the airport yesterday with the Collingwood boys heading out, but I'm sure that he'd be keeping an eye on what Chris does, and he's been an outstanding player at VFL level for a long time now.
Yeah, I think that I keep coming up with the word accomplished. There would be no player in that side, the VFL side, who didn't at least do their job. And that's a good definition. That's very professional, well organised. No one played less than expected. You had a few that were terrific, Fleming among them. John Baird, I agreed, was pretty good. I'm very happy for John Baird to win the medal because the way he goes about it. I think that's good. But there was no one that didn't do their job. That was a very well organised, well managed. They produced. They were very clear about what they had to do. Gary Ayres organised, coached them very well. They had good people around them. You hear them all talking around that. So terrific effort from the players on the field, but that whole VFL organisation will walk away from here thinking very highly of themselves.
We've already touched on the story of Brady Jones and the fact that he is a great sporting story. He had a fair bit of the football today, and he's with David Lithgow.
Yeah, thanks very much, Pete. Brady, a few months ago you were playing out here a game of cricket. Tasmanian, big step up for you today. Of course, you made yourself back with footy in the SFL last year. How'd you find that today?
It was a tough contest. It was obviously not a great result for us. I found it was pretty tough. They obviously a very good team, classy outfit, so congratulations to them.
Of course, you came in with a bit of an injury cloud, didn't you? Your shoulder, which has been an ongoing issue, I know, for the last year or so. You managed to get through okay?
Yeah, no, it was all right. I had a week off last week. I was supposed to play against Launceston, but had the week off because I was a bit sore, and it still wasn't that good, but it was good enough. Obviously, once you pull on this jumper, you turn to feel like a Superman, so, yeah.
Let's just give a bit of background for all the people at home who don't realise, of course, you played cricket for Tasmania, lost your contract at the start of last season, decided to play footy, got another game with Tassie this year, played 3 or 4 games, unfortunately lost your position in the Shield final, but you're pretty keen to have a crack at this footy, Cobra, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. I've obviously having a few years off through playing cricket and not being allowed to play. The enjoyment factor is right up there, and I obviously enjoy playing for Tasmania in any sport. It's pretty, it's good. It's like one of my passions to try and play for Tasmania, represent Tasmania. So yeah, it's going well.
There's not many people that have represented Tasmania in football and cricket, ladies and gentlemen. Very privileged, and congratulations, Brady. You handled yourself terrifically today.
No, thanks, Flash. Ta.
Brady Jones talking with David Lithgow there, and a learning experience. We touched on the fact that you don't see that these days. Remember back in the Craig Bradley days, who represented his state at cricket and, of course, was a champion footballer. And it's just a shame that the game has become so professional in lots of ways that we don't see those talented players, or they've just simply got to make a choice now.
Yeah, well, at the highest, the AFL level, you can understand that because it's, they pay them so much money. But you're right, last one I think that Maxie Walker did it.
Walker did play for Melbourne,
and played state, obviously Australian cricket, so he was the last really big name that I can remember. Keith Miller.
Yes.
So we're going way back, but there's a long link between Brady Jones and Keith Miller. But you're right, there's a romance to it, isn't it? The all-round player, the all-round sportsman.
You just reminded me of a great quote from Keith Miller. I won't actually quote it word for word, but he was asked about what happens out on the football field or out on the sporting field and the pressure of it, and he said that's not pressure. Pressure is when you've got a Messerschmitt up your backside. Change that just a little bit. But that was one of the great all-time quotes, I reckon.
is, yeah. Everything it gives a bit of perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
He did well, Brady Jones. You know, he's this is a long shot. You know, it'd be a long shot for him to go to the next level. But as we said, because of his sporting pedigree, if you like, people are going to be pretty confident he has the professionalism. When you talk to AFL recruiters, they want to know about the person as well as the player. And if you're able to hand the rigours of Sheffield Shield cricket, which is the best domestic competition outside Test cricket, the next step down in the world. Well, and he's done well at that level. Well, that's a real tick in his box. He's come back. It's his first time at TSL level. He's got, in the first year, he stepped up to state representation, and he's done pretty well. So if you look at that curve, that growth, then that's not a bad thing for him. Size is a bit of an issue. There's lots of players around that, but he did it pretty well. Well done.
Why don't we take a look visually at Sam Fleming and some of his efforts? We've talked a bit about it, and his ability. What we said at the start of the game was the way that not only that he generals the play, but his ability to almost construct or be the first peg in the building block, if you like, that he really constructs the play so much from half-back.
Yeah, he was good. See, there's a good example. He's the third man there. He's just read that better than his opponent. For a while there, he was a loose man, but he wasn't all the time. What I really liked about him, as I said, he just knew when to go. And here he's up forward, so he's versatile as well. He knew when to go. That mean go and get the ball and leave his opponent, but he also knew when to be with his opponent, and he's pretty good competitive one-on-one in the air. He's just a smart player.
He is a smart player, and one man who will certainly testify to that is his coach at Port Melbourne, his coach in the Victorian team today, Gary Ayres, and here he is with his good buddy Phil Cleary.
Gary, we've been talking, you've played in lots of sides with quality players, and this is not the AFL, we know that, but dear me, that's a quality side, really, isn't it? Highly skilled.
Oh, absolutely. And I thought once we're able to address that sort of kick to handball ratio, we really did open the game right up, and to be pretty, I guess, big winners on the scoreboard, but also, too, the opportunity to present what we want to do, and that's showcase our skills. And I thought they were just terrific, very impressive, and they're just a wonderful bunch to be able to coach.
I think it surely shows there's a lot of players who don't get into the system or get in and drop out. You've got them here. There's little between them and a serious AFL career.
Oh, you're right, mate. And, of course, it's credit to, obviously, the guys, because they come together over a fairly short period of time. We only train Tuesday and Thursday. And even, too, if you point out that, obviously, Beardy's won the Frank Johnson medal today, 2 years ago he's probably wondering whether he could ever play again. So the opportunity, and he grabbed it today, as did the 21 other guys. So very proud.
It's a remarkable thing. You can wax lyrical about Beardy at top end, 31 going on 32, and you get Blakes down at 21. I mean, it's a wonderful game, footy, isn't it, for that?
Well, it is, and that's why we do love it so much, as you said, Phil, because it gives all ages, all sizes, all various talent on show. And, of course, when you bring it together, it's a wonderful thing when you win.
And it's lovely to see Beardy at 31 tagged by a bloke at 22. You like that?
Yeah, well, important in the state game to do that. I don't know about that. But, nah, look, full credit to the guy. Obviously, he was learning something from by playing on a guy like Beardy. But, look, that's part and parcel of the game, and it just showed how much of an influence he had on the game.
If you were the coach of Tassie and you're just reflecting on their performance, what do you say about where they are?
I think they were very competitive, and no doubt their pressure was very good, especially I thought for the first quarter and a half. But then the ability for us to pick from a very, very good competition probably is a bit of an overriding factor as to why the result was that way. But they're developing and they are competitive, so they probably just need a little bit of class to go along with those two other ingredients.
Well done, my friend. A nice little marker in the Gary Ayres story. Congratulations.
Good on you, mate. Couldn't do it without you.
Oh dear, yes. They're probably going to get a ride together to the airport tonight to head back to Victoria.
It's a beautiful thing. Is he going to author his biography or something? I didn't understand. He's got that gender gaze. He didn't have that side to him, and I knew. I think I told you this morning, we used to laugh about him. We'd talk about games afterwards, and he'd cleaned up something, an opponent or whatever. He'd say, "Oh, I just love hurting blokes." And he was turned into this caring, sharing, loving, so there's a little bit of boy love or whatever in there, something. It's a nice thing.
We've got to go. It's been a pleasure to sit beside you.
Absolutely, great pleasure.
Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Victoria by 108 points on behalf of Andy, David Lithgow and Phil Cleary. Peter Donegan saying farewell from Bellerive Oval in Hobart.